And apparently we are live. Get the right thing queued up here. We're doing Epstein files today, guys. Got a lot on Epstein files. There's just so much like information about it, and it's very hard to like disseminate what's true and what we need to concentrate on at this moment. So, but I think Breaking Points did a really good job of just kind of highlighting everything that's going on. They made a bunch of videos about it recently. I just want to see this. Okay, so it looks like the first one. Have ice around the poles. Okay. No, that was not good.
Mindless and completely misrepresented.
Turning now to Epstein and an update with a very significant story. Ryan and Emily brought you all Melinda Gates' response to some of the explosive allegations inside of the Epstein files. Remember that there's a specific memo which Epstein memorialized to himself in which he claimed that Bill Gates had passed on an STD to his wife Melinda and that he surreptitiously was trying to acquire some antibiotics to slip her. She did not deny the allegation. Yeah, I mean, on its face, one of the most repulsive and disgusting things that a person could do. Allegedly, Gates has denied it. He has now denied it even more vociferously on camera. So here's his response to Melinda and to Jeffrey Epstein. Let's take a listen.
To a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. You know, in retrospect, that was a dead end, and I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
You've no doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. It just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent, some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's actually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Nothing to do with that kind of behavior. Okay, you can take that for what you will. While meanwhile, here in the across the ocean in the UK, there continues to be an explosive political scandal. It is amazing. Emily has criticized me because she said the least American thing about me was my love for the British system. And it's true. You know what? I remain vindicated. I love the UK. I love the parliamentary democracy. I love the fact that their head of state is a king or a queen, which is separated from it, and that they have a raucous PMQs where people get thrown about. Their press. I love them. The way that they go after the British tabloids and the way they've been going after Keir Starmer.
Which is particularly impressive, given that they don't have the same freedom of speech rights that we allegedly have.
They can get sued at any time. The government can literally come in and censor them at any time that they want. They have an anti-fragile system. They ditch their prime ministers all the time. When the prime minister loses the election, they fuck off into nowhere. You literally never hear of them again. They elect new leaders. They have a completely different head of state from the head of government. They constantly are reshuffling inside and rethinking different ideas. And their British tabloids are ruthless on their politicians. Mm-hmm. They have no expectation of grace. I'm sure they have many of their own problems, and the UK people are shaking their head at me. But from afar, it's pretty amazing.
I think the UK people probably prefer their system to ours.
They probably
yeah, as much as they see the issue.
They probably do. I love the city of London. You never smell any weed. It's an awesome place. You go to a great big city, great big architecture, and there's not a scent of marijuana that is in the air. However, but with all of that said, what I loved the most is you have these Epstein files which get released, and then what happens? A full-blown crisis for the government. Because the prime minister appointed a close Epstein associate, Lord Mandelson, as the ambassador to the United States. Photos come out which are damning, disgusting, but even better is now you get insider trading allegations. What immediately happens? Scotland Yard opens an investigation. Mm-hmm. The prime minister takes to the House of Commons and is ruthlessly pressed by the opposition and forced to answer questions about this. It remains a top story in the United Kingdom today. Poly market traders are betting as of this morning that Keir Starmer himself could be out, sometime soon. This is a real scandal. This is what a system which is responsive to information information, believes in consequences, actually looks like. So here's Keir Starmer being pressed in the House of Commons specifically about the relationship with Mandelson, whether he knew anything about Epstein and Mandelson's connections before he was appointed here as ambassador. Here's what he had to say.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
Prime Minister.
Yes, it did. As a result, various questions were put to him. I intend to disclose to this House all of the national security, prejudice to international relations on one side. I want to make sure this House sees the full documentation, so it will see for itself the extent to which time and time again Mandelson completely misrepresented.
The gasp in that room. Holy shit, dude. Oh, that was priceless, dude. Holy shit.
The extent of his relationship with Epstein and lied throughout the process, including in response to the due diligence.
He has to admit, I knew about his relationship with Epstein before I appointed him. And, like I said, Mandelson, he's in trouble. Not just criminal trouble. They might strip him of his titles. They're talking about using some law from 1783. I mean, their system is going full on. Meanwhile, over here, right now, the only people who have paid any price for the Epstein files, from my count, number one is Larry Summers, who might be the most high-profile person. Number two is Peter Attia, may lose his CBS News gig. May, still hasn't been announced. And three, the head of a law firm who sent some emails as of this morning has been replaced.
Yeah.
That's it. So none of the billionaires paying a price, none of the politicians paying a price, nothing.
And no
yet over there,
criminal anything.
Oh, yeah, criminal, forget about it. But over there, oh my God, I mean, it's a full-on investigation, accountability. Prince Andrew's getting his ass kicked out of the royal apartments. Sorry, Andrew Windsor, I think is his name now, because he's been stripped. Apparently, they sent him to Norfolk. The people over there are like, we don't even really want him here. You know, it's a full-on shunning. Like, it's a real system, which is having consequences for the people there. It's amazing to watch. Like, we're a Western country. We speak all the same language. How they are completely acting in a different way than we are. Meanwhile, our DOJ officials are going on television and saying, actually, it's not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein. Not a joke. Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, said that on Fox News just the other day. Let's take a listen.
Is there any chance that any of these individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged in relations with minors will be prosecuted? Any chance?
I'll never say no, and we will always investigate any.
I'm gonna have to make a short out of this one because this interview with Todd Blanche and Lauren Ingram is absolutely absurd what Todd Blanche says, but it's also absurd that Todd Blanche even exists. He was Trump's personal attorney, and now he's the Deputy Attorney General. You guys even know what a conflict of interest is? That's what this is. It's a huge conflict of interest.
Some misconduct, but as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein, and so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein, and some of these men may have done horrible things, and if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
It didn't look like that's all that was going on in some of those photos. I mean, if the photos could speak, some of them look pretty bad.
Why does he have to say it twice that it isn't a crime to party with Epstein? Also, in some cases, it actually might be a crime to party with Epstein, but at the very least, and this is the thing about public officials, because over there, they removed him, Mandelson, from his post as ambassador way before the criminality, potential criminality, of being for insider trading was revealed. They were like, no, you can't be doing.
I'm so unbelievably jealous of that. Like, this is embarrassing as shit that we have to do this, but here we are.
You can't be sending emails to Epstein being like, oh, my dearest, lovely friend, what's happened to you is an injustice. For them, they're like, we can't have this man as our ambassador. And yet over here, you know, you've got all these politicians, all of these high-level people. You've got freaking the Commerce Secretary who literally lied on camera about his relationship with Epstein. Where is he? Nothing.
Yeah,
nobody's even calling for him to resign.
Yeah, that's right.
At least with the Costa, we got him out of here.
And there's like no even expectation that would happen. I mean, I don't think the public has just been conditioned to expect that there's going to be complete elite impunity. And it truly, like, that elite impunity, which starts long ago with the financial crisis, with the Iraq War, like no accountability for the lives that are sold to the American people, the crashing of the entire economy. Like, this is one of the reasons why the country is falling apart. Like, this is a key reason. And so now, I mean, Lutnick is a perfect example. Caught dead to rights, lying about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We played the clip of him. Oh, my wife and I. The moment we met, we were so horrified. We swore then and there we would never have anything to do with this man who was my next door neighbor. And then fast forward, we get the emails, hey, me and my wife are going to come down to the island, like, let's make our plans, et cetera, et cetera. Just brazen lies. And not even just the UK. So in Slovakia, there's like a national security advisor who's had to resign because of his Epstein affiliation.
Man, that's so disappointing to hear about. In Slovakia, the guy lost his job. In America, you get elected president if you did little kids with Jeffrey Epstein. That's what you get for it.
It is possible to have a society that continues to have some level of shame and consequences, but clearly we don't have that. I wanted to just mention with regard to the head of that law firm, is it Paul Weiss? Yes. I think his name was one of these, really significant large-scale white shoe law firms, blah, blah, blah. And it also happens to be one of the first, if not the first, that capitulated to Trump's demands early on. Oh, yeah. Remember that when he first came in, all these law firms, oh sure, we'll do your bidding, and yeah, we'll do what you want, we'll do whatever pro bono work you want, et cetera, which caused a mass resignation of a bunch of their more junior associates, and also a fall off in the elite applicants to that firm. Well, that guy was the leader of that firm that was like the first one to capitulate to Trump, which again, is that because he knows he's got this relationship with Epstein that surely the government knows about and surely Trump would know about and feels very much, vulnerable and susceptible to what may come out. And so I think in a lot of instances, with Trump, it's convenient for him to have a bunch of people around him who are compromised in similar ways to the way that he's compromised. Because not only can he be influenced by people who have inside knowledge of, whatever he was up to with Epstein, but he also has that inside knowledge that he can deploy and use as a cudgel and use as a, another little way to have additional power over the people in his administration. So, it's not an accident that you have so many Epstein associates in this administration, both because the, all elite networks are just apparently shot through with these people, but also specifically because I think Trump likes having Epstein associates around him that he knows of, because that gives him an additional lever to use against them and additional power over them.
Yeah, it's so sick watching these people with impunity. Also, again, just a memo to the U.S. press, we're allowed to discuss Israel and Epstein. We're allowed to do that. You know why? Because they discussed it in Israel. Put this up here. I love this. Again, you won't find a scrap of this on CNN. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is tweeting about Epstein's relationship with Ehud Barak, saying an amazing revelation about Ehud Barak that was exposed in his pedophile friend Jeffrey Epstein. Ehud Barak suggests carrying out selection among Jews and importing to Israel the right kind of Jews, those who are neither Mizrahi nor right-wing. When the left and its messiah, Ehud Barak, failed to win at the ballot box, they tried to replace the people. If that's not enough, they can always rely on Bennett and Lapid's Brotherhood of Brothers to team up once again with the Muslim Brotherhood. So the Prime Minister of Israel is acknowledging the relationship of Ehud Barak and of Jeffrey Epstein, Prime Minister Netanyahu, who, by the way, Epstein set up a meeting for Netanyahu with J.P. Morgan. So it's not like his own hands are dirty. If he can acknowledge that, how come we can't? Right now, our Western press is obsessed with the KGB connection. And as Ryan has pointed out, guys, he really only made connections with the Russians on behalf of the Israelis, just so we're all very clear about that. But it's, every other country in the world, they seem to be taking it a little bit more seriously. Over here, it's just, it's fun to talk about, I guess, and to cover as YouTubers, and that's great, but it would be a lot better if it were to be happening, I don't know, maybe at the highest level. But there's none of that. Yeah. None of that at all.
It's worth just dwelling for a moment on the clip that Netanyahu is talking about there, and just to understand a little bit of the internal Israeli politics. Netanyahu and Ehud Barak, rivals. Barak is seen as more liberal. I think, from his stances, I don't think he should qualify as liberal in any sense, but in any case, they have different coalitions within Israel. And in this recording, I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but he was telling Epstein and Larry Summers that he told Putin he wanted 1 million Russians to convert to Judaism and to become Israeli. And he said exactly as Netanyahu represents here. He said, in the past, we didn't have the luxury of being so we had to take some of these people from North Africa. But now we could be more choosy, and we could take, we could get better Jews to convert and become Israeli, which just shows you how deeply racist this country is. And not only against non-Jews, but even within various types, various ethnic backgrounds of Jewry within the state. And you can see that in terms of the poverty levels and the treatment of people, that is abundantly clear from society. But he just says it absolutely outright to Jeffrey Epstein about his ranking of what the ethnic background and makeup of the proper, more elite Jew should ultimately be. And it's just, again, so racist, so disgusting. And this is deeply embedded in the leadership thinking in the state of Israel.
Yeah, it's sick. All right, let's go for next. Just a couple more that we wanted to show. D5, please. Can we put that up there on the screen from the Israeli press, who apparently, again, able to do a job that we can't do over here. Pro-Trump billionaire on the Gaza Peace Board linked to Jeffrey Epstein in newly released DOJ files. Mark Rowan, who the president appointed to his board of peace, tasked with reconstructing Gaza, maintained close connections with Jeffrey Epstein. Newly released documents from the Department of Justice show, just to show everybody some of that. And then finally,
hold on, there's one other piece of this one that you will also enjoy. So not only is he on this board of peace, right? In addition, he was spearheading the university crackdown and like the speech codes,
Yes.
the pro-Zionist speech codes that are being imposed on various American universities. And do you know where he first made the case for this approach, Sagar?
Free press.
Free
Yeah, I
press.
knew it,
Barry Weiss is free press.
Which he probably funds.
Ding, ding, ding. So, and then he went on to make the case for it in the New York Times or whatever. But that's who this guy is.
So
not only is he on the Board of Peace, but he's been busy cracking down on free speech and First Amendment here, to protect the state
this
of
is
Israel.
Rowan from Apollo. Okay, Mark Rowan. He's the guy. Remember Apollo? That was Leon Black's company.
Yes, exactly. So he doesn't he replace Leon Black when Leon Black gets pushed out over his Epstein ties?
That's right.
And now lo and behold,
now it's all clicking. It's all clicking for me. All right, here we go.
Incredible.
All right, last one, D6 up here on the screen. Crystal, you found this one. Maybe you can explain it. It was about the executor of Epstein's estate and the connection with the party at Palm Beach.
Yeah, so this is just raises questions about Trump. Of course, is always maintaining. I cut off, contact with him. When does he say? Like 2005 or something like that. And they had some dispute involved Virginia Giuffre, also involved a real estate deal, and they had some sort of falling out. Well, here you have an email from Jeffrey Epstein to the executor of his estate, who he was very close with, and all of the financial details of his life basically shared with this guy. And he says to him, in December of 2016, so weeks before Trump is inaugurated into the White House for the first time, he says, on the 4th, I'm in Palm Beach with all the Trump boys. Fun. There are some other indications in the emails that perhaps, he still was very much in contact with the Trump family, if not Donald Trump himself, leading right up to his inauguration. And then, of course, we know he carried on this very long friendship and deep friendship, apparently, with Steve Bannon, who was very influential in the Trump administration, especially the first Trump administration. I mean, he served actually in the government to begin with before getting kicked down over a whole thing that is, whatever. Anyway, so, he saw, and he, in the emails after Trump gets elected, he talks about how much opportunity he's going to have now with Trump in the White House and how happy he is that he's there. So that's why this one is very significant, is because it seems to indicate that, if he's telling the truth here, that he was hanging out with probably, Don Jr. and Eric here weeks before Trump is inaugurated back in 2017.
Yep, we'll continue to see. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up.
Was together, AOC, Bernie, etc. But she had no money. Like, I think she spent $400,000, and this is the New York media market. So, that's gonna buy you some mailers, and you can have some staff. But AIPAC dropped more than $2 million. And so what they did, Malinowski, they've supported him in the past. He's been fairly friendly to Israel, but like all Democrats, he's getting a little bit skittish about the relationship with Israel. And so he said some mildly critical things. And I think he might have suggested that some weapon systems maybe ought to get some review at some point. And so they're like, oh, no. Like,
what a radical.
This is too radical. This will not fly. So they dropped more than $2 million on him at the very end to try to crush him. The reason that so many outlets called this in New Jersey for Malinowski and then had to very embarrassingly retract their calls is that he won the early vote fairly decisively. So in other words, before AIPAC's money has really landed in the race, he's going to comfortably win this race, this 3-person race. But he then in the election day vote finished 3rd in most places. So they knocked him even behind the also ran AIPAC candidate. And you started seeing Mejia winning by 20, 30, 40, 50 points on election day. And it was enough then to overcome the early. And so this was something that Jewish Insider that covered the race, they warned about it. Dave Dan was like, like people watching the race, I saw Adam Green, who runs PCCC this week, and he was like, AIPAC might deliver this for us. So this was it was known that AIPAC might actually take Malinowski down far enough that it would allow Mejia, with her ground game and her strong base of support, to sneak through. And she did. Now, the best part, Mac, do you have the ad?
Yeah.
So when AIPAC spends in these races, obviously they're not saying, don't vote for Tom Malinowski because he's too mean to Israel. He didn't support our genocide. He wants to restrict weapons that are going to, they don't say that. They poll Malinowski and they figure out what are the things that work against him. And for him, they obviously did the stock trading scandal that he had, but they led with ICE because he's a former member of Congress. He funded ICE with votes back in 2019. And so they hammered him. Ironically, AIPAC is they love nobody more than Trump, but they're like, Tom Malinowski stood with Donald Trump to fund the evil ICE. We can't trust Tom Malinowski. And what's amazing, these ads worked in suburban, rich New Jersey among Democratic primary voters. They were like, oh, he funded ICE? Get him out of here. So
Amazing.
Yeah, let's cue one up if you've got it, Meg.
ICE's deportation force is out of control. Tom Malinowski voted with Trump to increase funding. And that's not all. he was caught cashing in on COVID-related stocks while in Congress.
This is about having privileged information and using it to your own personal advantage.
He failed to disclose the stock trading as required by law.
Tom Malinowski bought or sold up to $1 million worth of stock.
We just can't trust Tom Malinowski. UDP is responsible for the content of this ad.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Even the tagline, he can't be trusted. Like, it makes sense to me that you're at a point in time where the Democratic base is like, we got to figure out which of these Democratic electeds we can trust that are going to like actually have some backbone and do the things we want them to do. So even the tagline itself, fits the mood of where the Democratic base is and what their concerns are. So thank you,
Right.
AIPAC.
Yeah, and ICE is a big litmus test right now. So it's a good one to hammer him on.
Yeah, AIPAC. So if you're not, think about it. So if you're a Democrat and you're just a normie Democrat who's been winning re-election, you've been casting the votes that your party wants you to cast, you've been trying to stay on the right side of your voters, you have now learned that there is a potential huge cost to pay for supporting ICE. You get out there and you defend ICE on TV or to your local news, that clip is going to be used against you now. You vote to fund ICE, that's going to be used, or it could be used against you if you get a primary challenger, because AIPAC has done the extremely expensive focus groups and polling for us, and now they have road tested it in this district, and AIPAC has let us know the best way to take out a sitting member of Congress in a Democratic primary is to hit them with the ICE message.
I mean, and it comes as there are, going to be these negotiations in the Senate about what are going to be the additional restrictions put on, ICE and CBP, et cetera. So it also comes at an important moment. I mean, it does remind me in a certain way of Zoran's victory, because he showed like, no, even in New York City, one of the most heavily Jewish cities on the planet, where, in a Democratic primary, you probably will not get a more pro-Zionist Democratic primary electorate than New York City. And even there, Israel is poisonous. Even there, you can win as an avowed, like, pro-BDS, anti-Zionist and be successful. And so this is the type of district which would be the least, you would expect to be the least amenable to the anti-ICE messaging.
Right.
And here they find that it is actually was the most powerful message about this guy. And to your point, Ryan, seeing the way the vote shifted from the early vote before the ads drop and then the day of vote, and there's this, cataclysmic drop off for him. I mean, that tells you everything about just how powerful and just how horrified the Democratic base is about ICE. I mean, the other funny thing here, obviously, is like, with all their money and all of their consultants and all of that, how did AIPAC not realize they were playing with fire here? Like, why didn't they just throw, maybe like $500,000 at some, or another measly $1 million into the race to also hit Anna Lila?
Yeah, the AIPAC candidate had put out an internal poll showing her competitive, but nobody believed it. Like, no, you're not actually competitive. And they didn't spend a lot of money boosting her. Well, they didn't spend clearly enough. Now it's so expensive. Like, AIPAC does have some limits on what it can do, believe it or not. And in the New York media market, that's pretty tough. Their new cope is, maybe we'll beat her in the general election because she's so radical. It's like, well, Harris won that. So the election's in mid-April. Harris won this district by 8 points.
Forget about it.
Like, it's not happening.
She's going to win running. Like, it's not going to be close.
And so
she's going to win by double digits.
Then their cope is, well, then maybe we can beat her in November when she runs for re-election, because this is a special election. She'll serve out the term. But it's like, it's still a Harris +8 district, and people are still going to be mad in November. There's some question. Malinowski, I think, has said he will not run. And it's a weird situation. So the general election is in April. And then the next primary is in June, like mid-June, for the November election. So if the AIPAC candidate or Malinowski wants to run, they have to endorse her for the general election in April. Campaign with her, say, let's beat the Republican. And then immediately on April 17th, they have to turn around and start a campaign against her for the June primary. And so how do you do that? How do you support someone for 2 months and then run against them immediately for 6 weeks?
Yeah. The other storyline here is there was another candidate, what was his name, Brendan Gill or something like that, who got 4th place, he was the one that was actually backed by the New Jersey Democratic Party machine, which is one of the more powerful machines nationally. And Steve Kornacki, who got a start in New Jersey politics and has encyclopedic knowledge to this day of every aspect of it, he was marveling at that piece, because in previous cycles, if you had the backing of the New Jersey machine, it was just basically like a fait accompli that you were going to be the nominee. Like, it was a done deal. So, so here's Kornacki. A couple of questions. If Mejia is in fact the winner, will one of these candidates or someone else challenge her in the June primary for a full-time term? Remember, tonight's primary is just for the special election to fill Mikey Sherrill's unexpired term. There's a major push from outside groups, particularly pro-Israel, to take down Malinowski and to boost Tahisha Way. Would Way be interested in a one-on-one shot at Mejia for a full term? Would that outside support follow her? This is a Democratic-leaning district. Harris carried it by 9, Sherrill by 15 in the governor's race last year. Dems have been overperforming across the country in special presidential elections of late. But New Jersey 11 does also contain areas more favorable to the pre-Trump GOP, and Republicans have nominated a potentially appealing candidate. Randolph Mayor Joe Hathaway. Could Mejia, backed by AOC and Bernie Sanders, be a tough sell at all in that mashup? So, I mean, I think based on the special election results that we've seen across the country, I don't think there's too much to worry about. But hey, I guess you never know.
Yeah, we'll see. And speaking of the machine, they did the exact same thing wrong in this race that they did in 2018 with Joe Crowley, which is their idea is let's make these elections as undemocratic as possible. Get as few people out to the polls as possible, and then we'll be able to go to nursing homes and get our 15,000 machine people out, and we'll win like that. And that's a flaw in the Death Star, because that means if you can yourself find 17,000 people in a district of 700,000, then you can win. I don't know, Mac, if you have the exact vote totals on there, but it's like nothing. And notice that we're talking about this on a Friday. Isn't that weird? Wait a minute. I thought in America elections are on Tuesday. No, New Jersey stops at nothing to try to depress turnout. So they even scheduled this election for a Thursday to confuse people and make sure that almost nobody came out. And congratulations, they played themselves.
Yeah. She's going to win with fewer than 20,000 votes total.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. Which does mean that, you can kind of bootstrap it. Like, that's a small enough number.
Right. You can knock on that many doors.
Yeah, I know Rokana was in the district earlier this week for an event, like just with the sort of star power of, Bernie and AOC and Elizabeth Warren and Roe coming in and supporting her. That was enough. And so it didn't really require that much money. I mean, it's extraordinary. And, the last thing to say about it is the reason that, well, two things. Number one, I'm sure everybody noted that ad we played, it doesn't say paid for by AIPAC. It says paid for by United Democracy Project.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they know that first, AIPAC funds these things, but they know their name is toxic, so they come up with these we love democracy, type of names to so you don't realize who's actually behind these attack ads. That's number one. But number two, this AIPAC themselves position this as a shot across the bow, right? They know that Malinowski is not the most anti-Israel guy, but they wanted to discipline the Democratic caucus and show if you waver even one, if you have a moment of weakness watching us blow up babies and are maybe we shouldn't think about maybe doing something. No, you have to be lockstep or we're coming for you. And so the fact that they failed on what they wanted to be a demonstration of their strength and a grab to discipline the Democratic caucus and get them back completely in line is also really noteworthy and quite extraordinary and significant.
And just a piece of trivia, they call that, I was like, why on earth do they call, and at least this is their actual, this is AIPAC's actual super PAC. They didn't make up, what they do in a lot of districts is they just make up a fake new one that then doesn't have to disclose the donors until afterwards. So this is their real one. I was like, why is it called United Democracy Project? This makes no sense. It goes back to their line that they're the only democracy in the Middle East.
Oh, God.
We are uniting the American democracy with the only democracy in the Middle East.
Right.
So that's where that brand comes from.
Well, Trump is in a lot of ways trying to make us more like that Israeli quote unquote democracy. So I guess the name does make some sense there.
Yeah. I mean, my last thing on this, where do you guys in the broader Democratic party sort of space, where do you guys think AIPAC stands right now? I mean, is it sort of like a death knell almost of AIPAC? I mean, you guys both mentioned they can't even publicly endorse some candidates right now because it's such a poison pill. Yeah. Overwhelmingly, the polls are showing that Democratic voters would rather have a candidate that is not backed by the pro-Israel lobby than is backed by the Israel lobby. Majority of Democrats think Israel committed a genocide. It has become such an overwhelmingly toxic brand that these candidates can't even associate themselves with the Israel lobby. And even then they have workarounds and AIPAC will tell their individual donors to go donate directly. And they're trying to figure out ways to still get the funding mechanisms in there without attaching their brand directly. But it seems like the issue has basically been won for the Israel critic crowd at a ground level.
The money still being there. I'm working on a story with Dave Dayan over at The Prospect, which hopefully will be up today on these 3 House races in Illinois, where they're doing exactly what you described, Mac. One of the fake super PACs they threw up, which we're going to demonstrate as effectively them, is called Elect Chicago Women. And I can't even remember the name of. The other one's about affordability. They're glomming onto Mamdani. It's like the Affordability Now PAC or something. And it's like AIPAC money, but that they're cloaking it and kind of sneaking it into these races because it would be so toxic to even come in with their official United Democracy Project PAC and run other things, because then you get more news coverage. And then people just start to understand, this is the AIPAC candidate. And this is the candidate that AIPAC doesn't like. And that is toxic and counterproductive for them.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I think Dem Tea Party is here, right? And we're going to, we're coming into primary season. There are going to be a bunch of results that come out of nowhere that people are not expecting. And, you know, I mean, the circumstances here are very unusual because you've got this very divided field and this AIPAC money coming in against a different candidate, not the, you know, not the Bernie wing candidate of the party. But the effectiveness of that anti-ICE ad in this district tells you everything you need to know about where the Democratic base, and not just, you know, one fact, no, the entire Democratic base, how motivated they are by that particular issue right now, and how, you know, how much trouble. And every incumbent Democrat has taken votes to fund ICE. They all have. So presumably, they're all vulnerable to a similar message that was so devastatingly effective against Malinowski.
Yep. You hate to see it.
Yep. All right, should we go ahead and
Breaks my heart.
move on here to the latest on the Epstein files?
All right, so Max pulled a bunch of new Epstein. I mean, this is part of the latest Epstein files release. People continue to comb through. Obviously, it's 3 million documents, so it's going to take a long time for everybody to look at everything. But we've got some new disturbing documents that have been identified. And then also, a bit surprisingly, Barry Weiss's CBS with an investigation into what exactly happened the night that Jeffrey Epstein ends up dead. And Mac, you wanna set this up? What you got here?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and put up the image itself while I talk about what the CBS News article is talking about. So this is a portion of the video, or a screen grab of the video. The headline here from CBS News is "Who entered Epstein's jail tier the night of his death? Newly released video logs appear to contradict official accounts." So what are they talking about here? They say newly released Department of Justice documents show that investigators reviewing surveillance footage from the night of Jeffrey Epstein's death observed an orange-colored shape moving up the staircase toward the isolated locked tier where his cell was located at approximately 10:39 p.m. on August 9th, 2019. Now, this 10:39 p.m. is also interesting because this was between the 10 to midnight period where supposedly these guards had fallen asleep or weren't paying attention. So that's when this sort of orange blob appears. But they continue. They say that entry into an observation log of the video from the Metropolitan Correctional Center appears to suggest something previously unreported by authorities of a flash of orange that looks to be going up, again, the L tier stairs towards Epstein that could possibly be an inmate escorted up to that tier. It also appears, according to an FBI memorandum, that reviews by investigators led to disparate conclusions by the FBI and those examining the same video from the Department of Justice's Office of Inspector General. The FBI described it as possibly an inmate, and if you scroll down here, you had the Inspector General saying it could be an officer carrying orange linen or bedding, noting in their final report as an unidentified corrections officer. So again, this is the image that's in question here, but unidentified possible corrections officer carrying linens, or unidentified inmate potentially going up in that direction on the night of Epstein's death. What do you guys make of this?
I mean, continue to be a lot of questions. There's another line in this CBS News report, which maybe this was already known, but I didn't know it. It says the noose Epstein allegedly used has never been definitively identified. According to the Inspector General's report, a noose collected at the scene was later determined not to be the ligature used in Epstein's death. What do you mean that you never identified the noose? Like, what do you mean by that? Because you have one jail cell, like everything's right there. It's not too hard to secure that scene and identify this is the one, you know, that was wrapped around his neck. That blew my mind as well. Have you guys seen, on the more conspiratorial level, have you guys seen this thing about how one of his gamer accounts continues to be active in Israel?
Well, okay. He's playing Fortnite in Israel or something.
I mean,
They just couldn't give up, like, whatever, you know, legacy, skins and tokens and progress he had. So
you can't stop playing Fortnite, even if you're dead. Like, that's they've designed.
That's how addictive, and he had a hand in some of the addictive nature of video games. So it would be, you know, it does make a level of sense. But no, I mean, listen, I think the fact that they tried to say there was no one in this video and accessing that jail tier when you can clearly see it in the video, and then they said, oh, well, maybe it's a corrections officer carrying orange linen.
Yeah, and they've said, no, that's definitely not. Yeah.
Well, and either way, they also say in the CBS report, like, according to the people who work in this jail facility, whether or not it was an inmate or whether or not it was an officer, either way, that would have been a breach of protocol at the time.
Right.
Yeah. They said that inmates would not be, like, walking around the prison at this hour of the night. That would not be a thing. That would.
The whole thing sucks. Real. The whole thing doesn't sound real. The videos all sound fake, like all of it. It's like, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but man, the Epstein files is a conspiracy theory come to life. Like, I remember hearing about Pizzagate. You know, the Democrats are drinking baby blood down in a Pizza Hut, and it turns out that it was just the rich people the whole time. It wasn't conservative, it wasn't Democrat. It's just rich people banging kids.
happen. And so the other thing that we got from this release is we learned that his defense team was approaching the government in, a couple weeks before he ends up dead, about cooperating, which would mean, he was saying, hey, I have some information that might be interesting to you. And so I think that speaks not only to potential motivation that you don't want this guy around anymore, but it also speaks to his mentality where, he still had avenues to pursue. That he certainly, if his defense team was exploring this, he certainly felt like this was a potential avenue to pursue, to be able to secure, a lesser sentence, be able to get out of there. So I think, both of those things fly in the face of the idea that he was truly suicidal and wanting to kill himself. We also had indications he was afraid to return to his jail cell, because he had, had marks on his neck and had been attacked previously. So, again, if someone is suicidal and wanting to die, that's not really consistent with, a mentality of someone who is apparently trying to preserve their life.
My favorite response to this question of who could the video show going into Epstein's cell has been, I don't know, the murderer. Could be, but and to your point, Epstein is a person who has confronted setbacks throughout his entire life, like rising up first of all through Coney Island, and he winds up at Bear Stearns. They find out he was a total fraud. He overcomes that. He gets fired from Bear Stearns. And he leverages that to this like international tax financier position. He got caught, with the child prostitution thing in the 2000s. Came back again, bigger than ever in the 2010s. This is a guy who believes in his ability to overcome obstacles, which is one of the biggest reasons I have such a hard time getting to a place where he's like, you know what, I've overcome all of these other things and I have all of this leverage and I have all of these friends and all this information, but I give up. Yeah, he just does not strike me as the kind of guy that gives up.
I totally agree with that. He's not the kind of guy that ever thinks he's checkmated, right? And you can see that even in the email, that he preserves to himself about Bill Gates, right? Clearly, Bill Gates had said to him, listen, my wife's on my ass. I can't hang out with you anymore. We got to cut this off. He's not taking no for an answer. He's like, no, like, you think you're done with me? I don't care. Like, I'm not done with you. And so here's how I'm going to keep you in the loop. Here's how I'm going to keep you in the web. This is not something you can just back away from. That's not how this works.
Right.
So
same with Leon Black. Leon Black's like, I'm done with you. He's like, no, I want my $40 million a year, and this is how it's going to go.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And, and also, like, clearly Epstein is a narcissist, thinks he's the main character. I mean, people like this truly don't even think the world can, like, go on if they aren't part of it. So it's it's just psychologically very inconsistent with someone who'd be like, they got me. I guess I'm out of here. But, I mean, listen, I guess on the other hand, this is someone who's accustomed to flying around the world and living in a lap of luxury and having all of his, horrific carnal desires met at every hour of the day and whatever. So perhaps it was just too hard for him to bear, that's even for a short time, to be not living the lifestyle that that he enjoyed living. So there is that. But there are just so many weird inconsistencies and questions that remain that it's just it's very hard for me to believe that the official story is truly what happened.
And
like,
to the point of him feeling,
it's like 60-40 that he killed himself or he got murdered. There's a 60% chance that he killed himself. There's a 40% chance he got murdered. And you can flip that depending on the day, depending on which evidence we heard recently. But all of it sucks. Like there's the only things we could really agree on with the Epstein files is that a lot of kids got diddled. That's literally the only thing we could agree on, and that Epstein did a lot of diddling. Other than that, we can't agree on anything except for the fact that Donald Trump is mentioned like 30,000 times in the files, and no one thinks that he's involved. Weird.
You also rewind to the Acosta sweetheart deal. Like, he might have figured the same thing. If you buy into the idea that Epstein in some way, shape, or form belonged to intelligence, and that's sort of what got him out of it the last time around, then maybe there's some inclination there in his mind that, okay, that'll probably get me out of this again, right? They're not gonna push me into a situation where I feel like I'm forced to reveal all of this incriminating information about these high profile wealthy people around the world that I have these connections to. So he may have thought he still had a chance. And to your point, Crystal, it seems like in the days leading up to his death, they were still planning on, at least making some sort of a fight. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mac, you want to roll through some of these other elements because these were some other, significant discoveries contained within this document release.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start off with this one posted by Ed Krasenstein. So he says here, it now appears as though Jeffrey Epstein may have met with Donald Trump Jr. in 2019, just months before he died. So if you look at this, this email, again, this is from January 27th, 2019. The email here is from JEE Vacation, Jeffrey Epstein. He says, "Can we do coffee with Don Jr. Thursday, Friday? Only if easy. As you know, I like people that are funny." So what are we supposed to make of this in terms of the timeline from which Donald Trump said that he completely cut off his relation with Jeffrey Epstein in the early 2000s to now we've had sort of multiple things that have come out in this recent batch of files that indicate, okay, at least within his inner circle or maybe even his immediate family, that probably was not the case.
Yeah, there was an email Soccer and I covered where he was similarly, actually right before he was inaugurated for the first time, Epstein was claiming that he was hanging out with what he described as the Trump boys, which you would assume is, Eric and Don Jr. And even if you buy their denials and these meetups never happened, or Epstein was just blustering and bragging and name dropping, and he wasn't really getting together with, Trump or Trump Jr. or whoever, clearly he had direct connectivity to the administration, as we see through the extensive Steve Bannon relationship. Right. And Bannon, especially first-term Trump, and Ryan, you can speak to this more than I can, but especially first-term Trump, he's in the administration to start with, and he's deeply influential. I think he continues to be influential in Trump world as both, an outside force and someone who knows all the players on the inside as well. So you see Epstein and Bannon going back and forth on, who on Supreme Court picks, right? On world events. And Epstein is offering his take, and Bannon's, I helped get John Bolton in there, but he's controlled by Sheldon Adelson, but maybe we can, work with him in this way or that way. So whether or not he was directly talking to Trump or Trump Jr. or family members, clearly he was having a direct impact on the decision-making of the Trump administration.
Yeah, absolutely. And but Bannon is this unusual figure who kind of loves to talk to the left, like the fact that he was talking to Chomsky. He gabs with reporters in ways that a lot of the MAGA types don't do. Like, I think he saw Epstein as this like entree into this Clinton world, of endless amounts of intel on the Clinton world of his enemies. And Bannon and Don Jr. are very close. So that's a direct line if Epstein ever wanted it.
Well, I also have to think that Bannon partly wanted to manage the relationship with Epstein because he knew that Trump had this long-standing relationship with Epstein. I mean, reportedly, Bannon had said, allegedly, that Epstein was the one guy who could keep Trump from the presidency, who could ruin it all for him. And so, I think there was also a sense of like, let me keep this guy close so I can, kind of control this situation and maybe find out what there is to be found out so that, I can protect my guy over here.
Yeah, there was that one email or text message where he's like, it kills Trump that, it would kill Trump to know that you and I are so tight.
There was something like he said at one point, Epstein, now you know why Trump lies awake at night, knowing that I'm still out there. And actually that email was sent like, I don't know, very soon before he goes to prison and ends up dead.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. We also had a couple more things that I wanted to bring up here. So on the censorship angle, right, obviously there's been widespread criticism on both sides, both in terms of a lack of censorship of some of the potential victims, as well as over-censoring on people who could be potentially implicated in Jeffrey Epstein's deeds. But we had this as well, pointed out here by Quad Carl, that seems to be sort of like a slip-up on some sort of automated redacting by the Trump administration. So if you see here in this seemingly innocuous sentence, this person says, I was going to take polo lessons in Calgary, but I, redacted, think my body can handle it. Now, I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that this person says, I don't think my body can handle it, but probably had some sort of a typo and said, D-O-N, I don't think my body can handle it. So could be some sort of an indication here that there was sweeping censorship and redactions on many things having to do with keywords like Don or Donald or Trump or Donald Trump or whatever else the case may be. So, even with the shocking stuff that we have gotten from these files, it seems like it's still a tiny fraction of what actually exists out there.
What do you make of this, Ryan? Because on the other hand, we just saw an email where Don Jr. was in there unredacted.
See, it's sloppy. They were wrecked by Doge. So, like, this is still a human enterprise. Like, they have to actually execute it.
Well, and they could have assigned down different batches to, different groups
different
are
people.
working on it.
Yeah.
So this one censored Don, this one screwed up and didn't censor Don, or who knows.
And there's one that was really telling to me that I was looking at the other day. It's an exchange between Epstein and Scaramucci. And it's very clearly Scaramucci because he's saying, I want to do a CNBC hit. And then at the end, he sends a Twitter link. And if you type in that Twitter link into Twitter, it's the Mooch's CNBC hit. So it's the Mooch. And he's redacted. It's like, Mooch is not a survivor of Epstein abuse, like, that we know of.
Yeah.
Why are we protecting this
man? Why is the Mooch getting protection here? Like, your 8 days in the administration earn you like the protection of the censors here. So it's just there clearly are a lot of censors going through this who feel like it's their job to protect anybody who's friendly to Trump or to their movement.
Yeah, and isn't he doing a bit of a right wing turn at the moment, separated from
Probably.
Midas Touch Nowhere? Whatever. Anyway, I mean, and there's a disgusting level of all the men who are involved here being redacted and protected, and then many victims being exposed. And I think that in and of itself speaks to their priorities here.
And then they're then using their own screw ups to then justify mass kind of withdrawing of documents from the public. Like there's this one email where a woman who seems to be on pretty good terms with Epstein, a grown woman, sends him a bunch of like nude pics, and they shouldn't have, but they did. They posted all of those pics. Then they go and they're like, oh, we accidentally included a lot of child sex abuse material. A lot of CSAM was put in, so we're pulling back all of this stuff. It's like, no, you didn't. You didn't actually do it. You erroneously posted this woman's nude photos, and you should withdraw those. But she's an adult, and so they're using the CSAM claims because the public is like, oh, CSAM, I don't want to be anywhere near it.
God.
And
Yeah.
just why?
Ryan, dude, if you're ever hearing this, I love your reporting, dude. You always have the best stuff. Ryan Grimm, you guys, this guy always has the best stuff. I realize nobody's watching this, but Ryan Grimm does typically have the best stuff, and he's kind of my hero, man. I like as a journalist and a reporter, Ryan Grimm's kind of the guy. Huge fan.
Oh, but they're lying about what's in there.
Right.
Claim because nobody's going to then call them on it.
Yeah. And
So,
in the days after the initial batch was dropped, if you did certain keyword searches on specific names, you could see the amount of results that came up would drop slowly over time. It would go from 5,000 to, now it's 4,700, now it's 4,300 or whatever over successive days as they were removing some of it.
Well, you guys got them all over at Jmail, right?
Yes,
Ryan?
I think we do. I think we have them. Like we're constantly, it's a cat and mouse game with their posting and withdrawing, but I think we've got them. Yeah.
Yeah. So another reason why you guys should check out that tool if you're wanting
Yes.
to do some journalism here yourselves, and just get a sense for how these networks operated and what their day-to-day exchanges were like, because it is an extraordinary and horrifying window. And I mean, I don't know about you, Ryan, like when I thought about the way the world worked and like these networks of power and how this all operated, I thought it was a little more diffuse. Like it's just so incredibly direct, like the most cynical view I possibly could have had of how power networks operate, like was maybe not even cynical enough based on these emails and these exchanges and the way that, they're all insider trading with each other. They're all protecting each other. They're all bonded together through these like heinous acts. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. My colleague Maz and I were in New York Wednesday and Thursday filming a video around Epstein's neighborhood. And what really is so striking about being there is how tight of a social set this is. Like it's all of these super elite rich people. Like we understand that they travel in the same professional circles, and for people who live on the Upper East Side, like they understand the social scene there. But for those of us that don't, like being there is like, oh, like this person lives here, this person lives here, this person lives here, Woody Allen's here, Jeffrey Epstein's here, Donald Trump's, the plaza's here, Trump's building is here, the UN's right here. Like it's all happening in a few blocks, and all the wealth that like is pouring into the United States is like just staying like right in those few blocks, and they're all hanging out with each other all the time.
Yep.
And so it brings home how
going to the Hamptons this time of year, going to Palm Beach that time of year. They go to these restaurants in the Upper East Side, live in these neighborhoods, their kids go to these schools.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it really does bring home your point about how tight this really is. And it's because and it's very easy to understand once you get there. It's like, oh, we all understand these social circles. They just happen to be running the world.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I've been thinking a lot about is like these are not people who have any sort of like patriotic loyalty. Their loyalty is only to themselves and their class, like truly. And so the episode that spells that out, I mean, there's a number of them. The email exchange where is it Peter Thiel that Epstein is talking to when he's like, zero interest rates were too high and we need more chaos because it's easier to like, to profit when there's death and destruction and collapse than trying to find a good deal during ordinary times. I'm butchering the language, but that was what he was saying. I mean, that's, it's deeply, not patriotic, it's like deeply anti-human.
Antisocial,
Yeah, antisocial, anti-creation, anti-human. And then also the revelations about Lord Mandelson, where he's plotting with Epstein against the UK. And like, let's get Jamie Dimon in here, to bully the government so that this banker bonus thing we don't want doesn't go through, and he can like threaten them, with X or Y or Z. So again, it's like, it's actually treasonous behavior, which is part of why it's such a scandal in the UK, because you're plotting with this financier against the government, against the will of the people directly. So
and that guy might go to jail.
that guy might actually go to jail. I mean, it's a pretty clear cut, like the insider trading part of that is like pretty clear cut. He's instantly, and this is crazy. Like you're in the midst of the crash in 2008. And what you're thinking of doing is like, I just got this information. Let me forward it to Jeffrey Epstein. Like that's your first move. Yeah. That's insane. Yeah. That's insane. But it just shows you like Epstein didn't need to be some sort of like absolute financial wizard, because the network was everything, right? And he had certainly, and I mean, he was a knowledgeable person about, financial network. He was very early to Bitcoin. There's a lot of questions about that too, of just how involved he was in the early days of Bitcoin and how beneficial that was to him. And I'm sure he instantly understood this is a useful network for my criminal behavior, as many people do and did with crypto, et cetera. But in any case, he didn't have to be a financial wizard. If you have that kind of insider information, it's easy. Right. You get the tip, we're going to do a 500 euro bailout. That's coming. Okay, well, let's do this. There was one. Actually, do we have this one about the shorting the ruble, Mac?
Yeah, we do.
Put that one up because that's very relevant to this. He was shorting the ruble just before they invaded Crimea. Isn't that the timing of it? 5 days before.
Yeah, let's check the dates. And this person might have had the time off a little bit, but yeah, he.
So the date from this email from Epstein is on March 13th, 2014. So I think that is about 7 or so days before the official annexation.
So why that move, right? Suddenly you just had an inkling,
there was another one here that puts it more into kind of explicit picture for the framework of what you're describing here, Crystal. So this is an email between Epstein and a Rothschild here. And she says, "Hi, Jeff, very long day sitting on the bank board. Numbers are okay, but not satisfactory to me. And I'm being put under pressure to be more innovative about asset management funds while restructuring. I'm in a dinner with a client, fed up. I miss our talks and hope that you're well. We'll be home tomorrow night. Will you be free? And let's discuss Ukraine." And this was after Epstein had said, "Ukraine upheaval should provide many opportunities, many." Yeah. Similar. It also, one more example of that here, real quick, is it reminds me of this drop site reporting here from y'all, Ryan, and this is in the piece on Cote d'Ivoire and him working with Ehud Barak to set up some sort of a security agreement. So this was an email between Epstein and Ehud Barak, the former prime minister and defense minister of Israel. He said, "With civil unrest exploding and the desperation of those in power, isn't this perfect for you?" And then Barak replied, "You're right in a way, but it's not simple to transform it into a cash flow." So this is the sort of mentality that they had with chaos and disruption and destabilization around the world, is how can we use this for our own power games? How can we use this to transform it into a cash flow?
Yeah, which again, this is disaster capitalism. This is, these are concepts that obviously we are very familiar with. But to just see it so overt and so naked, war, yay, goody, amazing opportunities for us to get even richer and more powerful.
Yeah, and the use of cash flow is an interesting little bit of daylight between Barak and Epstein, because Epstein's like, "Hey, chaos, let's go in and make $75 million tomorrow," and Barak is thinking, "Okay, but I just want millions flowing in constantly," and all of this chaos makes the flow part of it tricky. He just wants to sit back and just let it flow in, whereas Epstein's more of a peripatetic, let's just bounce around the world and stash what we can. But you can do both if you work hard enough at it.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I mean, there's an extraordinary email about Libya as well, where they're like, here's how much natural resources they have. I think we could skim this much off of it. And this is before we, came in and took out Gaddafi. So, that's the way that they think. And so, going back to the point about nationalism, they see nation states and they see nationalistic sentiment as a tool to be exploited as well, a Rubish understanding of the world, while they're operating at the level that action really happens, which is using the entire globe as their plaything. And, moving the pieces around such that it benefits them, even as it immiserates the world. And the other thing that I keep coming back to is there's an extraordinary exchange where he's talking about, he sort of has contempt for Bill Gates because Gates is doing all this charity work in Africa and keeps asking Epstein, hey, do you want to contribute to whatever X or Y or Z global health initiative I'm doing in Africa? And Epstein is very irritated by this because he says he's got this Catholic notion that all humans are equally worth equal amounts, that they're of equal value. And he just thinks that this is so preposterous and naive because he has this supremacist ideology and overtly eugenicist ideology that he talks about openly and is trying to put into practice through his breeding ranch in New Mexico, where, he wants to seed the world with his superior offspring. And it's very similar to the ideology of Elon Musk, for example, or there was a Chinese billionaire who was doing the same thing. It's very natural for these wealthy, powerful men to have supremacist and eugenicist ideologies because it justifies their place in the hierarchy. It allows them to fully embrace disaster capitalism and exploiting war and not giving a shit about all of the tremendous horror and harm that they're causing around the world, because those people aren't really people the way that we are. They don't deserve to have the lives that we live.
Yeah. All right, should we go ahead and move on over to econ now?
All right, so the economy really sucks. Mac, we've got a couple stories to go through here. And the data is starting to really put some meat on the bones of what people have been feeling for a very long time, which is that there are no jobs to be had. Like, it's this weird situation where we're starting to see a significant number of layoffs, but it's not as if you're getting that's the biggest problem has been that there just aren't job openings. Like, if you wind up unemployed, it's very, very hard to find a new job. Though people are starting to get fired and laid off at a pretty rapid clip. But what has led into this has been this absolute just lack of any jobs opening. Politico has an interesting lead here, which is just roll with on. Just read what they say here. Say President Donald Trump's economy is booming, but if you're looking for a job, good luck. The Labor Department reported on Thursday that job openings in December unexpectedly dropped to their lowest level since mid-2020 during the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a sign that companies have cooled on hiring despite an economic expansion that the White House has framed as the dawn of a new golden age. So we have this weird situation where we are not at all technically in a recession because GDP is growing. But there's all of this insane, tariff chaos that has been sending uncertainty into the market, but people are also then wondering how much of this is AI. If I talk to a lot of managers and executives at major companies around the world, what they all tell me, I'm curious if you guys have had any conversations with people that are similar to this. It's like when somebody leaves a job now at a company, the first thing they do is, it used to be as the economy is rolling, all right, so this person left a job, we need to hire someone to replace them. Now it is, we need to look very hard at, can we do their job using the productivity gains we're getting from AI to spread the work to other humans who can be more productive because they've got these AI capabilities. In other words, if somebody leaves, can we just not hire somebody? And the answer that so many managers are coming back with is yes, we do not need to hire for this role. And a lot of these Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies are forecasting that this process of attrition is going to lead to massive reductions in their workforces over the years. So some of it is this uncertainty sparked by Trump's kind of incessant need to own gold, like the economy. But some of it is also these companies saying, do we actually need people to fill this role? Maybe we don't.
Ryan, what is your estimation of how these tech oligarchs think this is all going to work out? Because I mentioned this yesterday. Chris Hayes had this viral tweet where he's like, I need you people to understand billionaires are trying to do to white collar workers what they already did to blue collar workers. That's where we're heading. As you've pointed out in the past, now the bulk of consumer spending is with, again, the top several percentile in the country. So they don't really need your consumer dollars anymore. They don't need your labor. They don't need your consumer dollars. They don't need you even to send as meat into the grinder for their wars increasingly with AI warfare and the use of special operations. So what is their, what do you think they're planning? This is going to work out?
What they will tell you is a version of Sam Altman's and Elon Musk's explanation for why they're doing AI. They will say, I agree with you. And I actually fear for what this is producing in the country and in the world. And I fear what it's going to leave to the world that my children are going to inherit. But my job as a corporate executive is to do what the company needs to do to get ahead. And if I don't do it, my competitor is going to do it, and and then we will fail and we will lose to them. That is what all of them say. And it is a genuine collective action problem in a decentralized capitalistic economy like this, where you don't have a kind of state that's able to say, no, these are the forces that we're seeing, but from a social perspective, this is how we want to direct those forces. And we, as a self-governing democratic polity, are going to do that. That we don't have that. What we have is our companies who have quarterly earnings reports coming up, and they need and now are starting to be measured by the level of attrition that they can pull off, the number of the amount of people that they can replace with AI.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, my answer societally, because obviously this, off to the races AI push is coming from the Trump administration. This is really their big bet on the economy. It's not like Trump thinks tariffs are fun, but the real big bet is on, we're going to take off all the guardrails and we're going to flood the, like AI, tech oligarchs, go, 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 no holds barred. And I think you see in their budget priorities the way they're thinking about how this is going to go. That's why they're funding the largest law enforcement agency in history in ICE. Better funded than immigration enforcement operations, better funded than any military on the planet except for two, ours and China. So they need this massive domestic police state equipped with the surveillance state and all of that stuff. And then you also have him asking for $1.5 trillion defense budget. So that's their view. And they foolishly only believe in hard power, right? That's what you see in the way that they operate in the world. They are delusional enough to think it's enough just to hold people in place using guns and hard power. And so I think that's their plan. I mean, just judging by their budget priorities and where they're shifting resources and focus and money.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan, to your point earlier, like there is a way that we could be going about this that actually does serve the needs and could improve the lives of average Americans. But it's impossible to do that under a capitalist structure like we have in this country. It seems like AI technology is almost the most extreme example of a race towards monopoly under capitalism, because it's so rapidly advancing and consolidating, and eventually we're going to have one company that ends up getting that major big breakthrough moving forward. And so, under the structure that we have right now, the no holds barred Trump, let's let it all rip. Where is this going to end up other than just with monopolistic sort of like a techno-feudal society where we have a handful of people who control the entirety of the most powerful technology that's ever been wielded by human beings, and then everybody else is just sort of left to rot? I mean, it doesn't even seem like they hypothetically have a sustainable plan for the next 10, 15, 20 years down the line in the future.
No, corporate executives are talking to them as some of the source of the greatest doomerism. Like they're, and you can judge them, for being the ones like foot soldiering and carrying it out, but they're even more frightened, that shockingly, than like the average public, because they're seeing it like happening now.
Which is why they're like building bunkers and planning to escape to Mars.
These are
seriously,
these are the types of people who make like, let's say $800,000 a year, rather than $80 million a year. They're very rich and doing well, and they'll be fine, and they can probably make sure their kids are fine-ish. But they also care about the world. And they're stuck in, they're in these jobs. And they're like, what we're seeing like unfold around us, we're going to, our head count's going to drop by 30, 50, 80%, like over the next, 3, 4, 5 years. And you do that across the board. Like, what are these people going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, how do you support a show like this when tens of thousands more of our like paying subscribers are laid off? Like, it is a very dark time that we're heading into, and the oligarchs have nothing beyond UBI at this point. Like, that was their vision, because they saw this. They're like, if we succeed in what we're trying to do, we're going to desiccate society, and so we need then universal basic income. Like, that was their answer. I haven't seen them come up with anything.
And then you also have this sort of like
concentration camps. I mean, I hate to be really dark, but ICE is building out. They're buying fields and installing warehouses, and
dozens of them.
And it's this massive police state that is being funded. We already know that it's not just for immigrants. I mean, we already see the people they're clashing with in the streets are mostly white liberals. So I don't think it's too crazy to think that is part of the plan, at least enough to like scare people into line and to control movement and control opposition, et cetera. So, I mean, I think that's from the political class. I think that's the way they're thinking about it, because they don't need you anymore, right? The only reason they need you is for your labor. And if they don't need your labor, they don't need you anymore.
Yeah. And I also wonder, like, with this sort of like transhumanism mindset, or even in some cases seemingly like anti-human perspectives, like how pervasive is that amongst the upper levels of some of these tech companies, where they might just like not, I mean, you remember that Peter Thiel clip, I think it was Peter Thiel from a while back, where he was asked, like, is it important that human civilization continues, or that human beings continue into the future? And he like legitimately had to pause and think about whether or not he thought that was something that needed to happen moving forward. So I think for some of them, there's an acceptance or a willingness to just sort of blindly go down this path that even they know will lead to civilizational destruction or mass suffering or whatever it ends up being.
There is a view in Silicon Valley, I don't know how pervasive, but there is a view that having an attachment to human beings is speciest. And so that true enlightenment comes from not caring that the robots take over and crush us like ants. If they're, furthering their civilization and able to come up with, these incredible technological solutions, like we should all be in favor of that. And that for us to be sentimentally attached to human beings is very small-minded thinking of us.
Just disturbing stuff.
Mac, you want to put up this CNBC one?
Sure.
Because this is, so I was saying like the big problem with the economy has not been layoffs up until now. It has more been when people leave, they can't find a job, that there's no new job openings. Now we're getting a double whammy. Layoffs in January were the highest to start a year since 2009, according to Challenger, which measures these 108,000 layoffs for the month, which they have doubling from more than doubling from the same period a year ago, up 205% from last month. Like that's insane.
Wow.
And they say at the same time, companies announced just 5,306 new hires, the lowest since January of 2009. If you weren't around for January of 2009, that was the darkest time in the American economy since the Great Depression. And this is going on while Trump is talking about a boom, and while GDP is GDP is still, maybe it's going to be down in the next quarter, but still growing-ish. The wheels are coming off is basically what these numbers are showing.
Before we jump to the premium half,
on the rush. So, the more buyers, the more you push the price up. Getting them in though, if they're on margin and it hits a certain level, as it crashes, the crash becomes self-fulfilling because, if you have to sell at 70,000 and that now it crashed and it hit 70,000, now you've got to sell your entire position.
Oh yeah. I was super confused on like the sound and stuff. And I think I just figured it out. Hell yeah. We'll see. I'll just calm down. God, this is so disturbing. These conversations are so disturbing. This is just like a chill YouTube stream, and this conversation is so goddamn disturbing. Like we saw the bad financial moves at the start of this year that started the Trump administration. We saw those moves being made, and I know it was just weird that there was like no move. Stock market did initially collapse, but stock market's still higher than it was when Trump took office. Not by much, but it's still higher. It's true. It just seems it's just a matter of time before it really hits the fan in a bad way. How MAGA's back to that. So far, the reaction hasn't. They don't give a shit, but well.
And you selling your position moves it to 69,000, and now other people who had to sell at 69. So some of it is like the more people you get in who are leveraged like that, the more volatility you're going to get. It was already an insanely volatile thing. I'm sure a bunch of people are out there buying the dip.
Well, it says right now Bitcoin narrowly avoids falling under 60,000 as it bounces off of lows. So it looks like there's a bit of a recovery going on right now. But, the hope was that as the dollar weakens and, people move away from it as the safe harbor and world reserve currency, that quote unquote digital gold, which is what they, what they want Bitcoin to be, that would be the thing that would, the new flight to safety would be Bitcoin. But what we've seen instead is that it's, it's more precious metals. It's like actual gold.
It's significantly below what it was when Trump was came into office.
Which is wild, because he's the crypto president. He's the guy. If it was ever going to shoot to the moon, then...
Mandelson completely misrepresented the extent of his relationship with Epstein and lied throughout the process, including in response to the due diligence.
He has to admit, I knew about his relationship with Epstein.
It's like, there was no reservations with that. It was just like, here's what I have to say. I'm not going to add a bunch of caveats in there. This is wrong. This is crazy. But here we're going to get a little bit more PBD, kind of adding to this theory that Andrew Schultz is really just like trying to appeal to his Hollywood friends, and that like he's really just doing this for careerist reasons, which I do find pretty interesting as far as their analysis goes. And obviously, I wouldn't put it past Andrew Schultz to just be grifting. So maybe they're right, but this is still interesting.
And with Rogan and these guys, I think Schultz is. I don't know how to say this. I'm going to say it. I think Schultz. How likely is it that Schultz studies the market of comedy very closely?
Yes.
How closely do you think he follows
much as you
it?
possibly can.
Is it fair to say he knows the future of comedy is Marcelo Hernandez?
Oh, I mean, that might be a part of it.
Do
for
you
sure.
think he knows that?
Yeah.
That's a major part of it.
Marcelo the other day sat right next to Jimmy Fallon while he's doing a sketch with what's his name? No. While he's doing they're talking to Bad Bunny, and then they're asking questions of somebody else that's sitting on it. I don't remember who it was. And when I saw that clip, the first thing I was watching Jimmy Fallon. And you know what I said? I said, Jimmy Fallon knows Marcelo's about to take his job. That's Marcelo's job.
And to be honest, I guess I don't study the marketplace of comedy very much because I don't know who Marcellus Hernandez is. Maybe you do, Zach, but
I've never heard of him. I was hoping you would.
Okay. Yeah, no, I guess I don't, neither of us study the marketplace of comedy very much, but someone's saying he's on SNL. But that is pretty interesting, if they're saying like, oh, Andrew Schultz is just kind of following this guy and they're following his lead because this guy's about to be the new big thing in comedy. And that could really, if that's true, assuming this guy's more like progressive or left, coded, more of a decent person instead of like a MAGA type, that could signal a bit of a cultural shift if they're right about this. If like that's what's coming next, if he's going to be the next big comedian guy instead of idiots like Andrew Schultz and Tony Hinchcliffe and Joe Rogan. So I think they actually might be onto something here. As much as it seems like them petty, trying to be like, oh, Andrew Schultz, like, he's just a careerist grifter. It's like, well, he is just a careerist grifter. And I think they're kind of right about this analysis, that he sees where the winds are blowing. He sees these other people coming up like Marcellus Hernandez, and they're not racist. They're not pro-ICE. They're not pro-MAGA. And a guy like Andrew Schultz doesn't want his career to be over at age 43. So he's like, shit, if I want to be relevant for another 5 years, I think I better follow this Hernandez guy and not be a total racist sack of shit.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Even when we were reacting to these clips originally as they trickled out, we talked about how it was a clear sign that the winds were blowing in a different direction, right? That YouTube was starting to be dominated by people who wanted left-wing content, people who wanted pro-Democrat content instead of the norm, which has for the last long while been people who want MAGA content. Like, obviously there's always been a home for people who wanted other content, but the prevailing normie content was right-wing coded up until very, very recently. And I think that they're hitting the nail on the head. Andrew Schultz has his whole life been apolitical. He was like, how can I grub myself up to the fucking top really quickly? I'll become a right-wing hack like these other guys. And now he's realizing that's over. He has no real loyalty to conservative ideology. He's just going to be like, oh, that was a fun phase. I'm going to dust it off and go back to being like, yeah, oh yeah, these guys are fucking crazy. I remember when I tried to negotiate with them, they're all lunatics, because that's the way the wind is blowing again. And I think PBD is able to just be like, oh guys, like, don't, like, there's no like trying to convert him back. He doesn't believe in our politics. He doesn't believe in any politics. He wants to have the most eyeballs on him at a time. And so, yeah, I think in that sense, he's a very astute in his observations. And I think that Andrew Schultz is a pretty fair bellwether, kind of like Joe Rogan, who's also trying to move away from Donald Trump, not back to the left, but distancing himself and going more towards Christianity and talking about how the ICE abductions aren't that good and shit like that.
Yeah, but I think it makes it harder for Rogan to move away than Schultz, because Rogan still has the UFC connection. He has to go into that pro-Trump lion's den of MAGA supporters all the time. And he doesn't want to suffer the rejection from that crowd, if he turns on MAGA. So I think that makes it even harder for Rogan to get out of it than Schultz, who again is in New York, apparently, according to chat. He's surrounded more by, Democratic voters and stuff like that, as opposed to Rogan, who's again in Texas and is still part of the UFC world.
That's a good point.
Let's hear just a little bit more of this before we move on.
Going to be 3, 5, 10 years. That job, or Kimmel's job, is Marcelo's job. So now watch this. Andrew Schultz is a guy that's super capable, He started his career he was on Fox News a lot back in, I think he was on the 5, I don't know what show. He was regularly on one of these Fox shows.
Can you pause that?
And then he
I do not believe that's true. I don't know of Andrew Schultz ever regularly being on a Fox News show.
I didn't know that either. I'm learning all sorts of stuff. I didn't know about Marcelo. I didn't know about Andrew Schultz's history on Fox. PBD is a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. I'm confirming that right now with his television filmography. He was never on Fox News. That's what's crazy about this. He's just straight up lying about that. His first television credit was the one I just cited from 2011 to 2015, Guy Code. All right. In 2013, he was in the spinoff Guy Court. All right. He was in MTV's New Year's Eve host in 2015. In 2016, he was in Uncommon Sense with Charlemagne, which I imagine was how they started working together.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in chat remembers this either. I think PBD is literally just making this shit up.
Man, called that. Can't hide that shit from me. I happen to have considered myself like a normie follower of Andrew Schultz for a while, and up until his like flagrant pivot when he went Rogan, he was just a dude who I was like, oh yeah, that guy.
Boy, yeah, it's just I don't know. I didn't even hear about Andrew Schultz until after COVID. I didn't even know who he was actually until I went to a WWE event in Madison Square Garden, because I believe he lives in New York, and all the Netflix, because WWE just got took over by Netflix, all the Netflix people were sitting together and they were all like sort of acknowledged as being Netflix stars, which I was with my girlfriend. She had never heard of Andrew Schultz either. So I believe he got his name from hanging out in the Rogan comedy sphere, is where he got his big break from.
And also apparently this Marcelo Hernandez is really coming up in comedy. And again, he's not a total racist piece of shit, probably because I'm guessing he's Hispanic. So he's probably not supporting like ICE and shit for obvious reasons.
And they mentioned he was hanging out with or collabing with Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny's super progressive, super bass, definitely not fucking around with ICE. Dude doesn't even want to perform in America besides the Super Bowl because he's like, fuck you for how you're treating Spanish people or Spanish speaking people in your country.
Yeah. And he doesn't want ICE to use his concerts as a place to round up potential undocumented folks that are coming out of the show. Which is just horrifying to think about and completely understandable why Bad Bunny wouldn't want to facilitate that. But yeah, and apparently they were in, someone in chat said they were in Happy Gilmore 2 together.
Oh, interesting.
Which I haven't seen, but I guess that Marcelo Hernandez and Bad Bunny
was in it.
Yeah, and apparently Marcelo was also in it and like played his like brother or cousin or something. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. And it is interesting to see that analysis from the PBD guys, where again, it's a little bit of pettiness where they're like, kind of annoyed that Andrew Schultz gets to be honest about this stuff and gets to
The mic is not giving audio because it's on fucking mute, dude. Come on, man. Come on, man. You gotta be better than that, dog.
to some complete, like what looks like a huge step down as far as their set. So
Looks
I
like
don't
dog
know.
shit.
Yeah,
Looks
it
like dog shit.
ass.
Like nobody wants to see you on YouTube with a set that looks like an obvious set. You're supposed to make it look a little bit like you're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Like this is a place where you just hang
True.
out. And that's the whole vibe of YouTube. Like this, everybody knows, like it does look like a set where we are at, but we're at a desk in my fucking apartment, right? And if you guys thought, you're like, oh yeah, they're at a desk in Zach's apartment, but you know, it looks a little nice. It's like, oh, it's framed properly. That's what people want.
They literally
They
look
don't
the
want
opposite of cozy, the opposite of comfortable. Except for PBD, he looks comfortable, but everyone else looks like they're on an airplane, like in the most uncomfortable seat with their little tray. Their coffee's about to fly off as soon as they hit a bit of turbulence. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Yep.
But anyway, shout out to the PBD crew for some good entertainment as always.
Yeah, absolutely. And are we ready to get into the next topic du jour? I'm excited. I haven't seen this one. Anna shutting down Jank in an awkward TYT live debate.
Yeah. So get ready for a little bit more analysis regarding Andrew Schultz. Everyone wants to talk about this, understandably. So let's listen to the first part of this TYT discussion just to set the table, and then we're going to fast forward a little bit midway through the conversation to where it gets really awkward, surprisingly awkward. And I'm genuinely interested in your opinion on Anna's take in this episode. But yeah, let's take a look. And this is also kind of relevant, because they're talking about Andrew Schultz kind of apologizing and admitting that he was wrong about Trump in a sense. Kind of similar to what Anna just also did, although she did it in a much more kind of hasty way. It's not like she devoted a whole episode to it or really even, apologized at all. She was just kind of like in an offhand, off the cuff remark, like, oh yeah, I was kind of wrong about Trump and I feel bad about that. Let's move on. But anyway, she's in a sort of similar place herself where she's just quote unquote admitted that she was wrong. So with that in mind, let's take a look.
I know I had Trump on the podcast, and I'm
Stop explaining that.
No, but let me just clarify because I think it is important to say, like, I know how I had him on the podcast. When I'm talking out about this, I'm not doing it to get people to be like, oh, he's a good guy or whatever like that, or trying to get anybody on my side. I understand that this is a horrific event that happened. I objectively want to talk about it. I'm not trying to win anybody over in this.
You understand? You know the difference between right and wrong.
There's a difference between right and wrong, and there's a difference between respecting and honoring the Constitution, the backbone of our country, and then completely shredding it. And this is completely shredding it. I just think it's an important thing to speak out against. I just think it's horrific.
Comedian, podcaster Andrew Schultz is admitting that he's having some buyer's remorse when it comes to Donald Trump. Now, during a conversation about the Alex Preddy shooting, and he was shot and killed by 2 Border Patrol agents in Minneapolis, and the abuses of federal immigration agents, Schultz went on to basically accuse the Trump administration of shredding the Constitution. Cenk, your 2 cents.
Well, I want people to pay attention to what he's saying here as to why he's now done with the Trump administration. And I want you to have hope that there are a lot of people out there with open minds who might have voted for Trump in the past, but are now realizing what's happened. And that's a beautiful thing. So let's do this story so you get all the facts.
So this was during the latest episode of Brilliant Idiots, which is a great way of describing most of US media, but nonetheless, Brilliant Idiots podcast with Charlemagne the God, as you saw in the video. The 2 co-hosts discussed the fatal shooting of Alex Preddy.
The one thing and this is, kind of mean to say, Anna is not funny, man. Whenever she tries
you didn't think
to
that
make,
was hilarious?
Whenever she tries to make a joke, I'm embarrassed for her. I'm like, that is so flat. You didn't even deliver it at all properly. Like, Brilliant Idiots. That is a way you could describe American, or most of America. Whatever she said, it was so unmemorable. I already forgot. It wasn't funny. I was like, how did you get this job, lady? Like, there's no charisma coming out of you. You fucking feel bored being there.
Yeah, that was a flop. I agree. It was awkwardly delivered. Cenk didn't laugh. Either way.
And the Trump administration's grotesque premature response to it. Now, immediately after the shooting, Kristi Noem, for instance, DHS secretary, dubbed him a domestic terrorist. Stephen Miller claimed that Preddy was there to massacre law enforcement. Now, Andrew Schultz called out officials in the federal government for immediately jumping to conclusions about Preddy and disregarding Preddy's constitutional rights. Take a look.
And then we saw all of this. So let's skip forward a little bit to where Anna weighs in. And then again, we're going to fast forward a bit, but let's hear what Anna has to say.
All of us as Americans.
So, I mean, look, I appreciate the fact that he's willing to say this, knowing that he's going to get backlash from honestly all sides. The reception to his commentary there from the left has been that of scolding, jeering. How dare you? You had him on your podcast. You helped him. I think that's a mistake because I think one of the things the right did correctly in the lead up to the 2024 presidential election is that if anyone had any reservations about voting for Biden and then when he dropped out Kamala, the right would try to bring people in, right? Yeah.
And again, obviously that's true when it comes to voters. I 100% agree when it comes to voters. I think that, yeah, if someone voted for Trump and now they're curious about voting for a Democrat or voting against the Republicans in any way, yeah, of course we should welcome them into the fold. When it comes to high profile media figures with a massive platform, I do think it's important to hold them to account. Like, is that crazy to suggest that there's some level of accountability enforced for your fellow members of the media ecosystem, Anna? I just think that's wild. And obviously there's a little bit of projection going on because she doesn't want to face that same accountability. She just wants to be accepted and welcomed back into the fold of like normal people that didn't do propaganda for Donald Trump. But it's like, who needs who more? You know, do you need us more or do we need you more? Because we're doing just fine. It seems like for the sake of your career, you need us. And the same goes with a guy like Andrew Schultz. She's like, you know, he's getting so much backlash from MAGA. It's like, I'm sure he's getting a little bit of backlash, but he also knows that if he wants to stay relevant and if he wants to stay popular, he kind of has to do what he's doing right now. It's not about morality. It's about staying relevant, as PBD put it. I think PBD's analysis is actually on point there, where he's like, yeah, Andrew Schultz is trying to stay relevant. He wants to maintain some level of popularity. He doesn't want to be thought of as a fascist propagandist because that's bad for his numbers. It's bad for his popularity. It's bad for his attention. You can look at his view count and see how it declined after Trump became president. So again, obviously, yeah, welcome people back into the fold, but also I think it's ridiculous to suggest that no accountability should be dished out or dealt out for people who got us into the situation, for people who did propaganda for Trump, people who administered softball interviews of this fascist dictator. Yeah, I think we should remember that.
I completely agree. And I think you're so right to point out that the reason that Anna Kasparian wants everybody to be even softer on Andrew Schultz is because she wants everybody to be soft on her. Oh, there was no way to know this was going to happen. Oh, no, you were so right. You just hated black people so much. You were blinded. Yeah, it's crazy to come out here and be like, you have to be so nice to him. I actually think the left has been remarkably kind and charitable to Andrew Schultz. I have seen a bunch of viral tweets that says, sometimes this guy makes me want to gag, but we have to do the responsible thing and embrace this kind of talking with open arms. We have to be able to say, you know what, you are correct, and it was bad what you did, but you are not irredeemable. That has been the line everyone has said. When did, in the first fucking hour and 8 minutes of this podcast, did Gavin and I come out here and say, stop watching Andrew Schultz? We never said that. I talked about how I'd been watching him for 15 fucking years. It's crazy to look at the fucking 2026 on the calendar and be like, yeah, that was 15 years ago when I was in 7th grade and I was watching Guy Code on my couch. Okay, so I'm familiar with this guy. I know a lot more about him than apparently PBD did, who lied about his resume and said he came from Fox News, which absolutely is untrue, right? He flirted with the right because Rogan did, and he'd carved out a hole for himself in Rogan's asshole, all right? And that's what he did, and he's realizing he's gotten shit out, and he's all covered in blood. He's trying to take a shower and rinse it off, okay? And while he's doing that, his buddy Charlemagne, this is such a producer thing to say, is like, shut the fuck up and stop apologizing for this. Moving forward, you're a guy that criticizes Donald Trump and never takes accountability for your actions, because that's what a producer would tell you to do. Andrew Schultz is out here. He probably does genuinely feel bad. he wants to talk about it because he wants to scrub all of that
And I
off.
think he does want those clips going viral, you know, contrary to whatever Charlemagne thinks, or like I think he actually wants those clips to go viral, so everyone is, oh, I can't believe he's, you know, come back to sanity and what a reasonable guy and all that kind of shit. He does get points for this. You know, most people do reward the transition.
For sure. I think that he is going to be able to land the plane. I think he'll be popular again. That's why I think it's so absurd to fucking cancel the guy. Like, yeah, he did swing for the wrong fucking fence, and he hit, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna help out this guy become president, and then that guy becomes president and fucks everyone and makes a terrible decision. Guess what? People will get over it because the people who watch Andrew Schultz do not watch him primarily for his political analysis.
So yeah, God, Andrew Schultz used to be on Fox News. Fascinating. Let's check that out real quick. God, look at the young Gutfeld right there. That's crazy. Bill Schultz. I don't know that he was actually on Red Eye. I don't think he was. They keep on saying Bill Schultz. They're mixing that up with Andrew Schultz. Right? No.
Mrs. Fields, of course. I don't even know what her first name is.
I think St. Pauli Girl is #1. I mean, the symbol, the girl is so iconic that St. Pauli Girl is definitely #1.
And for legal reasons, I have to say that St. Pauli Girl is the only one that I'm turned on by. Can't do Wendy's, she's underage. What would be the Ron thing to do as far as mug holding is concerned? Like, make sure I don't stand next to someone who's getting tickled, obviously working out. In fact, the reason my hair's wet is I just got back from the gym.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I bench pressed about 400.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did about 8 reps.
I brought along Red Eye muscle. That could definitely help.
Wiry I got. Can't look it. But you know what? I do.
One's beery bicep has to stay parallel to the floor and must not bend nor spill for fear of disqualification. Sounds stupid? It is, which is why we sent Bill to a recent competition in Brooklyn. But first, a training session with the Marilyn Monroe of the lager world.
Thanks, Greg and or Andy, depending on who's hosting tonight. Frankly, I do not care. I'm at the Galway Hooker, and I am talking to the St. Pauli Girl, Jennifer Anglin. Jennifer, thank you for joining me. What's the history of the St. Pauli Girl? How far back do they go?
It goes back to when we follow the German purity law of 1516, which says that beer can only be...
By the way, anytime I hear German, I'm sorry to interrupt, but anytime I hear
Does the bank look heartless in all this?
No, everybody looks stupid in this.
Yeah.
First off, isn't the point behind social media to say dumb stuff online?
Yeah.
Because if
that's
not,
true.
I'm screwed.
Yeah, you are. You are.
Anybody who follows my Twitter account, sees
Yeah.
my Facebook page, I only say insulting and outrageous things.
But you're allowed to because Go Proud, you're in charge of it. No one's going to fire you.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Your biggest song was saying insulting and outrageous things. I mean, I'm not being facetious. I mean, it was insulting and outrageous to the person you sang it to, right?
What song?
Little Miss Can't Be Wrong. Right?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
No, you're not the guy I think you are? No. You're not the lead singer for the Spin Doctors? I looked you up, man. That's not you. No,
You're right, they have the same name.
We do have the same name. Do we look anything?
Etc. The reason I'm done with that anger is because, look, I get it, guys. You have your own, background, and you had your own media, and your media told you that Biden was a demigod and that he was FDR 2.0. So I don't blame you for believing that. I get it. It's like I'm not blaming some of the Trump voters for not understanding that Trump wasn't a demigod, right?
Can I be honest
you
about
both
something?
we both got had, we both got took. So I'm trying to give the same grace to those guys as I'm giving to Trump voters. So I hear you. Get it out of your system. And if you want to hate me or Andrew Schultz, okay, no problem, okay? By the way, the one simple ask though, I asked of the hosts, can you please not like.
Okay, Jake, hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
Who cares about all that?
Can you pause
Look,
this really quick?
we're
all right, really quick. Watch this though. Let's just wait. Let the moment play out real quick.
Okay, Jake, hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
Who cares about all that? Look, we're operating as if like we live.
Okay, no, go ahead.
I just think he was.
Who cares about all that? Oh my god, that was harsh, dude. Who cares about all that? Wow, dude, these two.
Happy about that.
No,
he was not happy. And be like, nobody cares about anything you just said. Let me interrupt you and change the subject. Bro, you would see a vein popping. I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? On camera. Afterwards, you could be like, that was a stupid segment. I'd be like, fine, I'm sorry you didn't fucking like it. On air, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, it's one thing just to interrupt your co-host. It's already a little bit annoying, and we've done it to each other a million times. It's another thing to interrupt your co-host and say, no one cares. Shut up. Let me talk, because literally no one cares what you're saying. Like, that's so rude. That's so mean. And yeah, just study Jake's face. And then we're going to get into what Anna actually has to say, which I'm kind of conflicted on, because before we hear it, just to preface this, it's not that she's totally wrong, but it's also giving major like Jimmy Dore energy. So I'm really interested to hear your opinion on this, because at least Cenk is trying to be like constructive in a sense. You know, he's being forgiving. He's talking about how, like, you know what, I understand if you had this reaction, even if it wasn't mine. And then Anna just takes it in this weird like Jimmy Dore direction.
Okay, no problem, okay? By the way, the one simple ask though, I asked of the hosts, can you please not like.
Okay, Cenk, hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
Who cares about all that? Look, we're operating as if like we live in a just society where our democratic process matters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, look at where we are today. Like, look at where we are today, where you have both sides of the political aisle providing cover for a serial pedophile who's working for Mossad and potentially other foreign intelligence agencies. We don't live in a democracy. So like, look, I just want people to understand our issues are far deeper than any of us realized. Okay, like there is no conversation to be had about policy right now or legislation right now. Our government is rotten to the core, regardless of who's in charge. And we gotta.
Wow, thanks for that. Again, Jimmy Doreism. It's like, you're not wrong. Like, yeah, the Democrats also supported Epstein. I get the point you're making. But doesn't this kind of just sound like some Jimmy Dore, like black-pilled both sidesism? Like, who cares who's in charge? Why are we even having any conversation? Why even do the show? Because, you know, Israel just controls America and the country's rotten to its core, bro.
It is exactly black-pilled type shit. That was the word I was about to use. She swallowed the black pill. What's so fucked up about this, guys, is my only takeaway from this. You're right to call on Jimmy Dore, because Anna Kasparian, literally, it's baffling, but we watched it happen. You'll know I'm correct when I say this, because you all watched it happen too. Anna placed her last bit of faith in American politics in MAGA 3.0. In 2024's MAGA campaign, she was like, this is actually going to be good. I'm going to fall for it. I'm going to buy into Donald Trump's bullshit. He's only going to deport the worst of the worst criminals. He's going to make the economy great. We're not going to have any new wars. I am going to believe in making America great again. That's what she did. She was like, he's kicking the trans kids out of the swimming pool. I'm all about it. Great. No more homeless people anywhere in this country because they're all dead or in jail. I can't wait. Okay. And when that didn't happen, when it was actually Gestapo thugs and lawlessness and pedophilia, like we told her it would be, she is taking the black pill. Nothing else matters. Oh my gosh, nobody could have seen this coming. It's all doom and gloom now. And she's just out here. She literally placed her last bit of faith in American politics in Donald Trump. And at that point, you just reap what you fucking sow. How could you possibly care about anything else if that's the place you got yourself to? But pretty wild that was apparently the straw that broke the camel's back. Donald Trump not following through on his promises.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And she's like, why are we even talking about policy? Like, none of this even matters. It's like, well, what are you supposed to do? You have to go to work. Like, your job is to be a political commentator. So is Jenks. What's he supposed to do? Just come out here and be like, the government is fucking corrupt instead of do your job? Like, no, you literally have to have a conversation about policy. Sorry you feel like you don't feel like it's helpful or whatever. I don't really know. Pretty weird energy, but let's hear this out.
Conversation to be had about policy right now or legislation right now. Our government is rotten to the core, regardless of who's in charge. And we got to change that. You're not going to be able to change that by continuing the fake partisan politics that's only framed in the way it's framed to divide us. You get what I'm saying?
Of course I do.
We don't live in the world that we lived in, or we thought we lived in 2016 when Trump had just gotten elected. We don't live in that world.
But Anna, that goes to the point that I was making, because I think those independent podcasters are critical, because you already have people on the hosts on the right and the left.
It's like, finally, I get back to my spiel, back to my endless word salad spiel.
That's how you really twist the knife too. You're like, yeah, you said nobody cared what I was saying. That point you just made, I was making. It's like, no, you weren't, dude. You were not making that point.
Oh God, yeah. So it is funny that, again, I mean, at least Cenk was trying to be constructive there with like his point, even though it was word salad. And then Anna just comes in, totally fucks it up by being like, none of this even matters because of Epstein and the government is so corrupt. And you're just like, well, you're not really wrong about that, but also, like, where does that leave us? Okay. Like, so what do you want to do about it? Just sit here and whine and act shocked about something we've basically all known about for years now, that like Epstein existed and was not only an ally of Trump, but also the Democrats. Yeah, we know. Like, we've known that for like 10 years now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Do they keep going?
Oh yeah, do you want to watch the rest?
Yeah.
Nothing is as awkward as what we saw, but they do keep going.
And are never going to move, and they're going to tell you the answer is the new corporate Republican or the new corporate Democrat. And don't worry about it, that they are both support Israel and the powerful and Wall Street and the donor class. That's not important as long as you pick the corporate Democrat. No, it's not going to make a difference. Oh, corporate Republican or Trump, who's an establishment elitist. And it goes to the point I was making, which is that a lot of the hosts told people that we voted for Trump or supported Trump, and half of the left looks like they think that we did that, when that's not even remotely true.
You did after he got elected retroactively support all of the things that he ran on. That 100% happened. You literally did turn around and do revisionist history and said you never called him a fascist and you never called him a Nazi and that you were not one of the Democrats that didn't think anything could be done with Donald Trump. And then you volunteered your services to Elon Musk and you kept making excuses for them. And you said, hey, you know what? Let me team up with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So yeah, that all happened. We didn't forget that.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it is correct that they never actually technically supported Trump or said they were going to vote for him. But they were hella pandering to MAGA. We all know that. Cenk said that Trump winning equaled the establishment being defeated. Anna denied that Trump was going to do Project 2025 and tried to mock people that were suggesting that. I mean, the list goes on and on. We can sit here all fucking day. It's crazy. They did both sidesism over and over again.
Because when you're a partisan, you don't care about what's right or wrong. You care about my team winning. But what Anna's trying to tell you is your team isn't your team. When they take the donor money, whether it's from Israel or the big pharma, they're not on your team. They're on big pharma's team. So if our side or any side makes the mistake of picking someone like Cory Booker, because they're like, oh, what a nice corporate Democrat.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's an entire entity within our government. It's called the deep state. They're not elected officials. We can elect whoever the hell we want. It's not going to make a difference.
No.
We have to do something to get the rot out. Otherwise, none of this matters. Okay, Andrew, like the reason why I'm not like up in arms about, oh, Andrew Schultz helped Trump in the lead up to the election and now he's changed his mind. The reason why I'm not riled up about that, as others are, is because our issues are much deeper than what comedian podcasters have to say about very.
This is such projection. She's like, the reason why it doesn't really matter the role that I played in reelecting Trump is because I think our issues are much deeper. And I mean, whatever I did, it's not as bad as like what Epstein was up to. So I guess I'm off the hook, and so is Andrew Schultz. Don't look at me. Don't blame me.
What is the point of watching your show then? What is the point of watching your show then? And like, that's my natural follow-up when people go off of the deep end. What is the point of watching if nothing matters, right? Bill Murray, it just doesn't matter. Even if we played so well above our heads that our noses bled, it just wouldn't matter. Anyway, people in chat who are old will know. The fucking whole deal is that, okay, well then I guess I'll stop paying attention to politics then if nothing matters. That's what the black pill does to people. They just tune out. They stop caring. They don't register to vote. They don't pay attention to what's happening around them. They quit reading the news, all that kind of shit. That's what happens when people take the black pill and there's no home for the young Turks in their media diet after that.
Yep, 100%. And it's also like, bro, the deep state didn't like just start existing like in 2016. Like, what do you think? America was some like perfect bastion of fucking justice and equality or something like before the Trump administration? Fuck no, dude. You can look at all throughout American history, insane corruption, insane inequality. I mean, this is nothing new, honestly. I mean, Trump takes it to a new level in some ways, but don't act like, oh, the deep state just showed up on the scene yesterday. Like, the deep state has existed for a while. Who the fuck do you think killed JFK, motherfucker? Like, I mean, should people in like 1972 have been like, none of this matters. The deep state killed the president. Both sides are like, come on. It's just stupid.
If they can get to Fred Hampton, what good is the Montgomery bus boycott, right? That nobody talks like that because you have to keep moving the ball forward, right? We talked about this at the beginning of the live stream. Is the solution to the fact that Donald Trump is going to send his fucking ICE Gestapo goons to the polls in November a reason to stay home? Is it a reason to say, oh, I guess I shouldn't register to vote if Donald Trump's going to rig it anyway? No, absolutely not. People in chat were already chanting it. Too big to rig. Too big to rig. Show up in so mass numbers that it's impossible to be denied. Go with a group. If you are aware of somebody who is nervous about polling or showing up to vote, make sure that you drive them there. Go up with 3-4 people. It should be exciting to vote. And if you've never voted before, I'll tell you what, once you actually walk through the doors, it might be scary because there's like legal distances where people can't act like fools. But once you get past those people, if they happen to be near your polling location, everybody inside is super nice. They're all really happy to see you. You need to be telling people that, hey, it's really important, it's really fun, it's really easy, and don't let these assholes intimidate you. It is so irresponsible and reckless in 2026 to come out here and blackpill your audience. If you have 1 ounce of goddamn shame for the way you fawningly covered Donald Trump, you should be motivating people to resist like they never have before. You should be reminding people that even change on the margin is vastly important when you're dealing with battling fascism, right? Oh, you can only make 2-3% of a difference voting for the Democrats. Good. Make that 2 or 3% difference and keep the fucking Constitution. That should be your line of messaging.
Yeah, 100%. Do you want to watch the rest of this?
We can, or we can move on. Totally up to you.
I think you basically got the point, to be honest. That was the most awkward stuff in there. But yeah, just really funny to see Anna go like full Jimmy Dore again, be like, oh, like Democrats, Republicans, who cares? None of this even matters. It's all fucked. It's like, okay, then maybe you should go get a different job because you're not really helping things by just whining and screaming and acting like, who cares what Andrew Schultz says because of Epstein? Who cares what I said? Because of Epstein or something. Like, I guess I'm off the hook because I'm not as bad as the pedophile cabal. Pretty funny stuff.
It's insane. And, they talk a lot of shit on corporate Democrats, corporate Republicans, corporate media, all in that exchange right there. All of them, both Anna and Cenk, they talk about the bane of corporate Democrats, corporate Republicans, and corporate media. Right? Well, they're themselves corporate media, as we often point out. And in fact, when they get caught with their pants down with their own sponsorships, they never report on it. We talked about how Joe Sandberg of Aspiration Bank, you can still go to the Young Turks website and find the name Joe Sandberg. Okay. He's an investment banker from California, and he started Aspiration Bank, among other things. He has been convicted of $100 million fraud, and they never reported on it a single time on the Young Turks. Here's another lawsuit that's taken place. I doubt we'll hear anything about on the Young Turks with their old sponsor, Polymarket.
Oh, you missed their deep dive on this last night, Zach? They went in depth exposing Poly. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was like, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked because I did not see anything from the Young Turks about this. New Polymarket hit with a nationwide class action lawsuit in the Southern District of New York for operating a, quote, illegal online sports gambling platform that is marketed as a prediction market. That's exactly what we've been describing to you guys on our show. That's 100% what they've been doing. It's an illegal online sports gambling platform that is marketed as a quote unquote prediction market, but in reality is an unlicensed sports betting enterprise prohibited under various state laws. And that's exactly what this is. This is an innovation. What they did was they skirted already existing laws that said, yeah, you can't just gamble on your phone. You have to go to an Indian reservation. You have to go to a licensed casino. And we're not going to let you gamble over shit that's really easy to manipulate so that people aren't taken advantage of. We're not going to let you gamble over politics because that's immoral. We're going to tell you, hey, you know what? We don't want anywhere. We don't want any incentive to fucking put a thumb on the scale, to get big business involved in rigging our elections, to get the mob involved in rigging our elections. That's a bad thing. You don't want that. So, you know, in the same way, you don't want all these unregulated gambling, markets that are happening on Polymarket. We talked to Luke Thomas, notable MMA journalist. Luke Thomas, host of The Morning Combat and host of Luke Thomas Gets Political on YouTube. And he was talking about how there are actual laws on the books that protect you when you gamble over a boxing match. Like if a boxing match is fixed, people will go to fucking jail because it's a serious thing. It's like stealing money from people, right? There's no way to prosecute people when it's like what's going to be on the front page of Google tomorrow, and some asshole in California can decide this is what's going to be on the front page of Google tomorrow.
But what about the will Jesus return? Can that be manipulated? Because I hear that the odds are going up. The Jesus return is imminent, according to Polymarket.
That was another thing that was so fucking weird yesterday, right?
At least you can't manipulate that, though. Like if you if you want to put some money on it, you really just have to have faith, I suppose, that Christ will return. Because no one can just be like, hey Christ, please return. I have a bunch of money on it that you will. Please do it. Make me rich, bro. But no, yeah, I mean, it's obviously gambling. I can't believe they'd even disguise it and pretend that it's anything else. Like, if I was the people in charge of Polymarket, I'd just be like, yeah, it's what do you obviously it's fucking gambling. Like, what the fuck else would it be called? Betting money on some shit, hoping that you win money if you're right. Like, that is literally gambling.
Yeah.
But shout out to the Southern District of New York for filing that lawsuit. Do you wonder if that's Zoran related, or does he have anything to do with that?
It was actually separate from Zoran, though. I know he's already come out and supported it. It was an individual that sued on behalf of themselves and everyone else in America in a class action lawsuit. And it's funny, I believe the last name of the person is like San Diego. It looks like San Diego. That's one thing that stood out to me.
Interesting.
But I do imagine that that's why we saw this bit of propaganda the other day. Breaking: Polymarket is opening its first free grocery store in NYC. But how exactly does it help the Poly market? Well, it's propaganda, dude. And everybody already found out this is only going to last for 5 days. And there's a bunch of rules that you can fucking have to follow before you can go inside.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I heard that they were like putting down like a certain amount of money for like the first donation. And then they were like kind of hoping that other people would chip in so that it could keep going or something, but they're only going to be on the hook for like the first week's worth of donations, which is pretty hilarious. The first free grocery store, and you can just walk in there, all the food is free, bro. What a fucking joke. They probably already have plans to demolish the shit or sell off this real estate in like 6 months. As someone said, it's a pop-up. That's a great way to put it.
Oh yeah, it's dead ass. It's pop up. And yeah, sorry, the guy's name is Lorenzo Miro Santiago.
Interesting.
So
sounds like a conquistador or some shit.
A long name for sure. But shout out to that guy individually and on behalf of all others similarly situated though undersigned counsel hereby alleges the following against Colleen Market.
So this is on behalf of all Americans.
Yep.
Even Jank and Anna.
Even Jank and Anna. Even you, Gavin. Wow. And you at home, listener, they're doing it for us all.
Jank needs to come out here and be like, I do not agree with this. Don't speak on my behalf. I love Polymarket. They give me money.
I just gotta stay
Yeah. LOL. Yeah. Do we have anything else to get into before today's show's over?
I think that basically wraps her on up. Good show today, though. Really had a fun time hanging out with you all.
Yep. Should we get into Super Chat Types of P really quickly? But
yeah, let's do it. Shout out to you, Luke. Thanks so much for the generous $20. High thought. Leftist most healthy worldview, quote unquote, equals society, then family, then self. Liberal, quote unquote, not as bad worldview, family, then self, then society. Right wing, quote unquote, bad worldview, self, then family, then society. I mean, I think you're pretty right about that. I mean, that's why a lot of times right wingers embrace the whole like rugged individualism thing. That kind of speaks to what you're saying at the end there, as far as self, then family, then society. They're like, I got to look out for myself first. Rugged individualism. I don't need no help from the government. I'll pull myself up by the bootstraps or whatever. Which is obviously a total myth. But yeah, I think you're probably right about that. Broad strokes, probably right. Shout out to you, Luke. Thank you so much for the $20 all the way from Canada. It looks like. Really appreciate you tuning in. Hope you enjoyed today's show. And shout out to you, Code Left. We already said thank you, but once again, shout out to you for the gifted memberships. That means a lot, man. Really generous of you. And then talking about why? Shout out to you, Brian. Thanks for the $5. Why don't politicians actually show they can do their jobs before we start begging them to run for president? Calling us out, Brian, over the Graham Plattner commentary. And yes, we remember what happened with Fetterman. That's why we're hoping that Graham Plattner actually does what Fetterman was supposed to do, which is be like a badass progressive lefty who can appeal to independents, who seems more like a rural kind of guy or something, because that was the best thing about Fetterman. And to be honest, I was super excited about Fetterman. Then he totally betrayed us, seemingly partially as a result of the brain damage the stroke did to him. So while I will agree with you there, I don't think that, I'm not sure if that would have happened with Fetterman if it weren't for the stroke. And from what I can tell, Graham Plattner seems pretty healthy. So I'm not too worried that he's going to have a stroke and then wake up the next day and be a totally different fucking person, completely having gone to the dark side. I'm kind of joking with the Fetterman stroke situation. I think it was probably a combination of factors, but obviously we're going to have to wait to see if Plattner does a good job, assuming he wins his Senate race. We're just speculating here because we like to have horse race conversations. We like to speculate about 2028. But yeah, obviously we'll have to see how Plattner does. If Plattner disappoints us, if he wins the Senate race and then sells out, obviously we're not going to be excited about him. We're not going to be supporting him as a presidential candidate. We're assuming that he's going to get the job done and do what he's promising.
Yeah, I completely agree. You can't live your whole life being like, what if this guy gets a stroke and then betrays everything he's ever run on, right? You could say that for practically any politician. You also add that Mehdi Hassan was an advocate of regime change in Syria, which I would dispute with you. I believe what you're saying is that he cheerled the downfall of Assad, but he also came out and said that he thought the new guy that was in charge of Syria was also corrupt, and he did not celebrate the United States involvement in that at all, from what I understand. If that's, if you feel like that's not true, you could send us his commentary on that, and I'll, run a correction if he did say we should do regime change in Syria. But I believe what you're talking about is the fact that he was anti-Assad. And when Assad was, basically deposed from Syria, he talked about how that, Assad was a bad guy and that, it was a good thing that he was going to be held accountable, except now he's just hiding out in Russia. So I guess he's not really held accountable. Shout out to you, Sean. Thanks for being a member for 2 months. Sweet, I caught a live. Mad love for my Silly and Billy. Well, shout out to you, Sean. Really appreciate you being a member. Hope you enjoyed today's show. And for people who need a reminder, if you're a member, you can pause the show at any time, come back, watch it whenever you want, get access to the full live stream. So shout out to you.
I was gonna say,
let's stop pretending comedians should be thought leaders when it comes to politics, whether it's Schultz, Rogan, Burr, Maher, or Stewart. I think you're just not understanding, Brian, that in the modern media landscape, these guys are going to offer their opinions about current events. Everybody is curious about what they think about current events, right? So we're going to analyze what they think about current events, right? So we're not saying, oh my gosh, this guy's a hero, this guy's our savior. We're saying this guy is known by a lot of people. Here's his take on the situation, and it's our job as media critics to review it, which is why we do. But shout out to you, Ryan. Really appreciate you being so generous and leaving so many super chats. Luke Degner says they were simply suffering from griftfluenza as a response as to why Andrew Schultz and Anna Kasparian briefly flirted with Donald Trump.
Shout out to you, Luke. Really appreciate that. Thanks for the super chats today. And yeah, you might be onto something there. There's a strain of that going around these days. Shout out to you, Gregory Peckery. Thanks for becoming a new member. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the party, bro.
Dude, shout out to you, Greg. I wish I could play the guitar.
And shout out to you, Circling Suns. Thanks for the $5 from New Zealand. Hey guys, did you see the online drama with that far right chick Sarah Stock? Sam debated in his Jubilee. No. But that's like the lowest tier of internet celebrity. Like, oh, my claim to fame is that I was one of the idiots on Jubilee, one of the like pack of wolves that they throw the main person to. Oh, I was one of those guys. Remember me? I was the one that said this really obnoxious shit or this really racist shit. Like that. That's like the lowest tier of fucking internet celebrity. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Apparently we only have one follower that they're also following. We have like one mutual with that Sarah Stock account. Not super familiar with her, and I also did a quick scan of her timeline. I didn't see any direct reference to Sam Cedar, but maybe the drama wasn't related to Sam and it was something
I doubt
else.
it was. Yeah, that Jubilee was a while ago.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Circling Suns, and appreciate Nicole for sending a super sticker. Really appreciate that.
Shout out to you, Nicole. Thank you so much for the $3. Hope you enjoyed today's stream. Oh, got some details. Shout out to you, Samurai. Thanks for the $10 about the Sarah Stocks scandal. Sarah Stocks cheated on her husband with Elijah Schaefer. I've definitely heard of Elijah Schaefer from The Rift, and Elijah Schaefer divorced his wife to have an affair with Sarah Stock. Okay, it's a little bit of marital drama, a little bit of infidelity. I mean, that's about as common and age-old a scandal as they come.
Yeah,
nothing new about such scandals, but that's interesting. I guess they're not really living up to their family values.
Yep. Shout out to you, Samurai Champions. And shout out to Pedro the Line, member for 22 months. Guess who isn't in the Epstein files? Cenk Uygur Kasparian, 28. Hell yeah, bro. Honestly, you're forgetting.
Hey, when
Silly and Billy. Clear from the files, bro.
Yup. We would have been like honestly way too young to even like what would they have been unless we would have been the victims.
That's true. Thank God we weren't in those fucking files.
But yeah, no, you're not wrong, Pedro. As much shit as we talk on Cenk and Anna, you can't accuse them of anything like that. They definitely seem to be above that sort of behavior. Shout out to you, Cartoon49. Thanks for the $2. I'll send help. A blast of fun. Raimi's best since Spider-Man 2. I have to agree with you. I do think it's Sam Raimi's best film since Spider-Man 2. I absolutely adored Send Help. It's such a fun movie. If you're looking for a good movie to see right now in this part of the year where it's cold outside, there's not a lot of good movies coming out in the early part of the year. This is the perfect fucking film because, again, it's probably cold where you live. This movie takes place on a beautiful tropical deserted island. Great cinematography, great island vibes. And there's just something about a fun, island, like desert or deserted island kind of movie. This film kind of feels like something that could have come out in the 90s maybe, or the 2000s, back when, I don't know, it just there's something innocent about it that I really like. So shout out to you, Cartoon49. Definitely second that. Send Help is a blast.
Yep, loved Send Help. Thought it was a really good time. And I haven't seen a ton of Sam Raimi stuff since Spider-Man 2, so I'm down to agree with that too. I feel like I hope that he makes more stuff, and I hope that he makes stuff kind of along the lines of Send Help, like not a huge budget, probably easy to, crank out. We could get him on a schedule where we put something pretty good out every other year. I would love to see a Sam Raimi renaissance.
Yeah, 100%. I would say the only real contender for like his best film since Spider-Man 2 would be Drag Me to Hell, which I actually did. I thought it was like, I actually prefer Send Help over Drag Me to Hell. So I agree with you, Cartoon49. It's his best in Spider-Man 2.
Shout out to you. Brian adding, Cenk's constant promotion of the discredited Rebellion pack is so pathetic. Completely agree, Brian. Some harmonious agreement for us both there.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to you, Brian. Rebellion pack is a total grift, just like all of his shitty ass packs and projects that he wants people to donate to. And it's hilarious. He was like, oh, welcome back to the left, Andrew Schultz. Hit up rebellionpack.com/join link.tyt. Acting like Andrew Schultz gives a fuck about his dumb grift project. Shout out to you, Brian. Thanks for the $5. I know Jimmy Dore announced he voted for Trump, but did Anna actually say she voted for Trump? No, she did not.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Brian. Really appreciate that. I don't think either of them probably voted for Donald Trump. The one Republican that I know for sure Cenk voted for was the fucking mayoral
Rick Caruso.
candidate, Rick Caruso. I almost called him Rick Scott. I was like, that's the wrong guy.
Yep, and Anna did not. And even while Cenk was constantly going around talking about that, Anna just stayed silent, which leads me to believe that she 100% also voted for Rick Caruso, but just wasn't brave enough to actually, say it with her chest like Cenk did. So in the same way, she voted for Donald Trump and didn't have the courage to say it with her chest either.
That's some good
that's my implication, or that's what I'm going to take away from it. But who knows? Maybe she didn't. It's possible she stayed at home. It's possible she voted for fucking Chase Oliver or some shit like that.
Yeah. Shout out to Sir Jervil. Is this the beginning of the Anna Tanky arc? Time will tell. Time will tell. Maybe she will go full Jimmy Dore, where it's like the only people you can trust are Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey. Who knows?
I think the tanky arc for Anna has already kind of sort of subtly begun, Sir Jervil, because it wasn't that long ago that she apologized to Aaron Mate of the Gray Zone, and then she was praising Colonel Douglas McGregor, who's definitely in that kind of sphere. So it seems like she's already consuming tanky media if she's not already there herself. But who knows? We'll see.
That's true. I forgot about the McGregor line. That's true. That's some sus information that you're getting. If I hear that you're Colonel McGregor, you're like, oh Jesus, the ship has sailed.
Yeah. This is interesting. I didn't know about this. Mr. Rhino, yeah. Shout out to you for the $5. Andrew Schultz was a recurring guest on a super late night show on Fox called Red Eye that Greg Gutfeld used to host before he supported Trump. So if that's true, I'm guessing that's what PBD was thinking about when he said the 5, because Greg Gutfeld, I think, is on the 5. So I could see, getting those wires crossed and making that mistake.
Okay, that makes sense, because I'd never heard of that, and I was like, this dude never had a Fox News show. Like it makes sense that he went on Fox News, but that it never was paid by them for sure. So shout out to you, Mr. Riania, for clearing that up.
Yeah, shout out to you.
Brian, again, condemning Trump does not require one to opt for a defense of the corrupt, capitalist, imperialist, militarist Democratic Party. Well, shout out to you. That was a lot of adjectives.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Brian. Did you think that one of us was doing that? That we were like defending the corrupt, capitalist, imperialist, militarist Democratic Party? Because just saying that the Democrats are preferable to the Republicans, I don't think necessarily is a defense or like denying what you said. It's just to say that they're better than the Republicans and that they wouldn't be like shredding the Constitution in as blatant a form. They wouldn't be threatening to like go full dictator and send ICE to prevent people from voting. Like, I think that's mainly the point.
Yeah, I think the Biden years were a goddamn picnic for the first 2 years in comparison to now. The fucking 2021 to summer 2023. You compare that to now, boy, big difference.
Shout out to you, Cinema. Thanks for the $4.99. Anna, did the same thing with I Say Election, saying her vote doesn't count as she's in California with her platform. That's irresponsible. Yeah, 100%. She does traffic and that kind of bullshit where she's like, I'm in fucking a blue state, so it doesn't even matter. Yeah, she's been doing this kind of bullshit both sides for a while.
Yeah. Also, shout out to you, Cinema. Really appreciate the $4.99. Brian, I genuinely cannot tell if this is satire. I genuinely cannot tell if you're kidding. Requiring people to play sports bets in person discriminates against the elderly, the disabled, and people who do not own a car.
They're better off. they can't waste all their money. Shout out to them.
Yeah, I would argue that that the elderly often go to the casinos. If you've ever been to a casino, you will know how many people go there.
It's like 90%, yeah.
Dead ass. It's a ton of elderly people, and a lot of them not exactly walking on their own. So I think that's strike two. People who don't own the car are going to have to take public transit and get to the casino that way in my socialist utopia.
Yeah. I mean, lots of places you technically have to travel to get there, not just casinos. Like you could be like, I was going to say McDonald's, but now Uber Eats kind of takes care of that. I was going to be like, McDonald's just discriminates against people who don't own a car by having brick and mortar locations. But to be fair, you can Uber Eat that shit.
Well, the 30-day theatrical exclusive, that's pretty ableist.
True. Shout out to you, Brian.
Is it possible?
And
to,
yeah,
like,
that's
put
an
yourself to
interesting
sleep
take.
while you're
I'm
doing
glad
it?
you're sticking up for the rights of disabled elderly gamblers.
Yeah.
Without a car. But shout out to you, Alvaro. Thanks for the $10. I don't know why it doesn't feel like a Super Bowl week. That's because the Chiefs aren't in it. No one cares. It's been pretty muted. TBH. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl, Pats or Seahawks? Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like Super Bowl week here in Kansas City. Definitely not. As far as the rest of the country, I'm sure people in Seattle are excited. The Seahawks haven't been in a Super Bowl in a long ass time, so I'm sure it feels like it up there. I'm probably rooting for the Seahawks. Hope Dieter's not listening. Probably rooting for the Seahawks just because, again, the Patriots have won so many goddamn Super Bowls. But I do probably think the Patriots are going to win.
Yeah, I kind of am in the same boat. I will also be cheering for the Seahawks, though. The Patriots just kind of have this aura of inevitability. The Chiefs, when they play, I feel like there's like an inevitability behind it. So until the Seahawks disrupt that, I'll agree with Gavin.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chad, the safety guy, longtime Vanguard listener. Great to see you in chat. Is anyone from the list actually going to go to jail?
The Epstein list?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be like shocked if like some people that we don't know that much about that are like really incriminated, like could at some point face criminal charges. But I think unfortunately for the foreseeable future, most of the people that were in those lists are going to stay free.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if more evidence comes out because there's still a lot of files that haven't been released. And it does seem like who's ever redacting these files is doing a lot of favors to the chief offenders by redacting a lot of the worst details and stuff like that. But I mean, I certainly hope so. There should definitely at least be investigations of all of these fucking people, even guys like Bill Gates. So I hope they do, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So,
shout out to you, Brian. Have a great weekend, gentlemen. You too, man. Always love seeing you in chat, Brian. Appreciate the pushback as always, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, great to see you in chat, and thank you for all of your generous contributions as well as your own nuggets of pushback as well. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And Ada Naomi, excuse me, almost butchered that. Member for 12 months, 1 whole year. A year since I gave up on TYT. Happy to be here. Well, shout out to you. Really appreciate you being a member for a whole year.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Really appreciate that. Always great to see you in the chat, and thank you so much for being a member for a whole year now. That's a real momentous occasion. So shout out to you. Shout out to you, George Pelacudas. Thanks for the 279. Have a good weekend, guys. You too, George. Always great to see you in chat.
Yeah, thank you, George. And shout out to Samantha. Appreciate the $5. Great episode today. Yeah, I thought we had a banger today. I thought today was a real good one. Nice, tight, crispy, 2-hour show. We love that.
Yeah, it was fire. Great show today. Shout out to you, Samantha. I'm glad you thought so too. And shout out to you, God-eating penguin. Thanks for the $5. I miss when you guys reflexively called him Dimmy Jor because he's a dimwit and Jor's a dumbass's name. Yeah, no, we gotta bring that back. Sorry that we've been slacking on calling him his real name instead of or calling him his fake name instead of his real name, which is Dimmy Jor. You're right about that, God-eating penguin.